Hello and welcome back to the SMITE Pro League. Getting ready to dive into our second set of the day between the Atlantis Leviathans and the Solar Scarabs. But before we do that, I want to give a shout out to our channel sponsor, Maxnomic, providing such comfortable chairs for you out here. Make sure to go to SMITE Game or go to needforseat.com. Use code SMITEMAX. That's the one I was looking for. Make sure that you can get your own discount and pick up your own chair. Some assembly is required, but hopefully if you're watching along with the video, it'll be a nice, easy setup for you guys. Maybe you can get yours built up there as long. Fun fact. So there was no more fun facts last time. I'm going to start with one now. I actually used to work at Office Depot, and I used to build chairs. That was my primary job there. But now I'm here instead, sitting in Maxnomic chairs. Not at the moment. Usually only when we're on the caster shop. But it's J Mac Tucker and Aggro. That's a weird divergent to go off and a weird tangent to start on. But hey, here for our second set of the day, Aggro, here in studio. Leviathans and the Scarabs facing off.
Always fun whenever the players are here in studio. Feel like there's a little bit of extra energy, and there should be, at least for the Leviathan side, because remember, they can secure a first seed nice and clean, be the only team sitting at 6-1 after playing against all other 7 teams in the SPL if they can find a victory up against the Scarabs today.
This is our last week of the regular play here in these round-robin phases of the season, so let's take a look at all the matches you've missed up until now, leading up to our final set before the group stages. Camelot Kings and the Valkyries played yesterday, the Bolts and the Titans also played yesterday. 2-0s across the board, all the way down so far, between J Dragons and Oni Warriors. That one was a 2-0. Now we got the Leviathans and the Scarabs, a team very notorious for taking us to Game 3s. Maybe we'll see if they can do that again today.
Yeah, I mean, they've got their work cut out for them. The Leviathans have been a team that look really, really strong, have only stumbled once so far, and the Scarabs have only been able to find the overall win column once so far this phase. But as you said, a lot of Game 3s, a lot of very close matches. The Scarabs team is definitely better than 1-5, but I don't know if they're ready to compete at the Leviathans level quite yet.
Yeah, they've taken all of the top 5 teams now, short of the Leviathans, that one's going to happen today, to that 5th game. So or that 3rd game, not the 5th game, the 3rd game. We'll see if they can do that one here today. Let's talk a little bit about the Scarabs to kind of start this one out here. Inbound for this team has had a little bit of struggles in the past, had some picks that were maybe not so hot, but ever since then, especially up here in this 3rd phase, he's really been making amends for some of those picks, notably that Umoja. That was something that you just kind of gave to them before. I wouldn't want to give that to him now.
No, I think that Inbound has really grown this phase, and that's been a big reason why they have been competitive up against some of those top teams. I mean, I think this duo lane of Inbound and Stewart have really started to hit their stride together. You know, Baronik still trying to find his synergy at times with Scream in the mid lane, but still starting to improve there. And Solo Troll, as always, that total wild card. But I think the style of supports that have started to come in, you know, the Geb, the Sylvanas, the Kepri, those aren't, you know, at the beginning of the year we wouldn't have said, yeah, that's exactly what Inbound is good at, but I think that he's really adjusted his play style and has been able to play those gods pretty well.
Yeah, and this Sylvanas, he brought it out a couple of times before the Sylvanas really became meta, but it's been looking really strong with it. We've gotten to see a nice couple of highlights on that Sylvanas with those pulls, and that's always been kind of the namesake of that god, is if you can hit those pulls, fantastic god. Otherwise, there's some other guys that you probably could be playing in the kit, but everything really seems to be kind of just winding up in Bobby's favor as far as the support roles are concerned. I mean, everything just seems to be kind of falling in line god-wise, too.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you look at what is kind of huge overall for them right now. Getting those healers, you know, Umoja, Sylvanas, those are always going to be very good. They lend themselves to some pretty early pressure at the exact same time. You know, trying to get him on those comfort picks, I think, is going to be pretty important for the Scarabs.
And if he can get comfortable, then he can allow his dual lane partner Stewart to get comfortable, and then it'll fall in place the rest of the team. Let's go ahead and stand by and talk with Bobby just a little bit before we get ready to jump right into the set. We got him standing by for our pregame interview.
So right, Inbound standing by with me for the pregame interview prior to the final matchup of the phase against the Leviathans. Inbound, I've had a question requested by Mifflin, and I will start it off here so we can segue off of it immediately. Who is the best pickleball player on the caster team? Nobody has any stock in this. Aggro's staring at you from the desk. Mifflin's staring very wantingly off to our right. Who's the best pickleball player on the caster team?
There's a slight problem. I've heard Miff is casting our set.
He is, with me, yep.
And Aggro isn't. So, with that in mind, I am going to give it to Mifflin and say he is the slightly better pickleball player.
I don't know.
And
if you can't,
it is Mifflin.
But here's the problem: is Mifflin doesn't understand there's an asterisk on this, and you're saying it's because he's casting.
I mean, I think he'll take it. He'll take whatever he can get,
You're
kind
right.
of.
You're right. It's Mifflin we're talking about. All right, kind of some normalcy here. Like, it's been a long phase for you guys. A whole lot of 3-game sets. A lot of sets that feel like probably could have gone either way. What's the ultimate roundup of feeling? You call the phase a success. You feel like you probably did some growing. You get to the end here, one final set to play. How do you look back on phase 3?
I mean, it's like something that's like it was in reach and it's something that we could have had,
Right.
but it just wasn't there, and so it's like an incomplete feeling, kind of.
Right.
It doesn't feel great, but it doesn't feel terrible either because we know we can play with these teams, we know we can beat these teams, but we haven't done it over those 3 games. So definitely just an incomplete feeling.
So with that being said, how important do you think it is to finish off the phase with a win against the Leviathans today?
I mean, I'm pretty sure if we get a 2-0, it affects the standings a lot. But I don't know exactly, so I'm gonna say if we get a 2-0 against these guys and it feels like they're actually trying, we're trying. It's just gonna be a great just go into groups like that.
Absolutely. Great way to end the phase, Bobby. I'll let you go back to the rest of your team. I'll have to go deal with Mifflin and his big old head. Best of luck today, and thanks for talking.
Best of luck to him. Maybe a best of luck to all of us now that Mifflin's got a little bit of inflated egos.
Bobby should go see a doctor before he goes to his booth, get his head checked. My man got hit in the head playing pickleball with us yesterday, evidently, because we were on the same team and we were winning.
Uh-oh.
Bobby, okay. Thank you.
Okay.
All right. You can go play now, Bobby.
Okay.
Thank you.
So I don't know if you could actually hear him, but he said now that Mifflin is gone, it is aggro, which
Thank you.
I think he was.
Which is legitimately true.
He
for
was
the
also
record.
leaning towards you before, and then he found out that Mifflin was casting, and that's where he had to put the asterisk there. So, just saying.
Can't have the man besmirching my pickleball game in front of the fans. It can't happen.
Well, luckily, we've got another team to talk about over here, the Atlantis Leviathans. They're going to be the ones having to square off against the Solar Scarabs. Rong Yu has been adding a few more gods to his repertoire as of recent. It's been mostly a lot of the Umoja, a lot of the Circuit has mostly kind of been thrown in there, but we've been seeing a little bit less of that Circuit support as of recent, with some of the changes to the god specifically and the changes to our items. We have been seeing this god kind of flex towards jungle more, but he has been kind of making his home with the Sylvanas. Has been one of the picks that he has been going to time and time again.
I mean, Rongyu is just so versatile. You can't ban this guy out. I think that when the Leviathans are playing their best smite, it's when Rongyu is being a major factor for them. You know, not necessarily just setting up Shinto and Zap to do their thing. Like, hey, we've got to ban whatever Rongyu's playing because it's enabling them too much. That is when the Leviathans are playing their best smite. So if he can continue to look like the premier support player in the SPL like he has for much of Phase 3, then I think the Leviathans are going to put themselves in a great position to mess around and win Worlds. Like, he has been that important for this team. And so anytime the Leviathans play, Rongyu's a player that I'm looking at to do a lot of work.
And having a strong support has really been able to kind of supplement the backliners. It's one thing that Zapman has talked so highly about for this team specifically, is that he's able to just fit right in. It didn't take him very long to get through that honeymoon phase of this team because he was just able to slot right in, pick up gods that he'd been playing all the time. And really, with this team, it's so hard to dive into the backline. It's because of frontliners like Rongyu, like Hardcore, being able to get out there and just make your carries feel as safe as possible. And really, on a team like this, that's all you could really ever ask for.
I mean, the way the Leviathans play their team fights, it's very, very front to back. You know, they're trying to hit your front line, and then their front line is trying to get past them and hit your back line. You know, they're not playing the crazy sort of compositions. They're just going out there and trying to out-fundamental you and doing it the vast majority of the time. So I say it a lot when it comes to Leviathans. I think their front line is just a little bit too good. That, you know, there are certain teams like the Titans. You know, the Titans are a team that I think you can't just let their backline free cast. You have to draft some sort of dive in order to get that team to lose in a team fight scenario. I think you have to draft a kill front line against the Leviathans because Yarkor and Rongyu and Panatom are so good on those aggressive plays that you have to be able to answer them, because if you don't, they're just going to run you over.
Well, let's see if they draft those here in picks and bans for game number 1. Leviathans and Scarabs here in the studio facing off for our final SPL set of the first half of Phase 3 right before we get ready to jump in the group stage. This one holds a lot of weight for the Leviathans. They can win this one. They guarantee that first seed. Means they have the first one going into the draft later on of the group stages, so they can have that first pick to give teams over to their opposition, whoever that may fall in line alongside them. But first bands coming out will be the Geb, who has made his way up into the meta after his bust. That change to Cataclysm seems to have really been massively impactful for this god.
Definitely. Just gives him a much better damage spike as soon as he hits level 5, and his weak early game isn't as exploitable as it used to be, so you end up in a pretty safe position with this god even during the laning phase, and then Geb's always been a monster late game, but now his Cataclysm's hitting you for even more, and he's still really good late game with the shield and the CC and his mobility. So no surprise that he's kind of rocketed towards the top.
And Odin's still sitting at kind of the top of the bands and has been for what feels like now two phases. This god has been sitting at the top of the charts for picks and bans for just about every single team. The Solar Scarabs will make sure to take him off the table. And now it comes down to the real nitty-gritty of the picks and bans is what gets let through further beyond here. The Leviathans are a team that they would be willing to maybe let this Uller through, first pick it for Zapman. But it's also one that maybe they would be okay with potentially giving over to the opposition. But we've seen what Stewart's able to do on that god, and I'm not sure I want to give that god to any other team.
No, I think that Uller is certainly one of those priority gods, but I think the best duo laner right now is Set. So I would be kind of surprised if Set gets let through. But the thing is, Zap and Stu sometimes have different god pools than the rest of the league. Do either of these guys play Set ADC is a big question mark. And if I'm the rest of the league, this is a really good opportunity for the Leviathans. It's kind of a weird scenario, but if I were on the Leviathans, if I were Oxy, their coach, who's on screen right now, and I felt really confident in Zap being able to play Set ADC, I wouldn't draft it here. I would want to try and surprise teams with that in groups. But if I think we aren't that good with Set ADC, I think I would pick it here, hope that we win, and that it looks okay, and then hope that teams will respect ban it from us later in groups so that we don't have to play it. We're in higher stakes games that matter a little bit more. So I'm interested to see if either team is willing to go that direction and maybe show their hand, because I think going in, I think for both these guys, I'd make them show me Set ADC before I'd ban it from them.
A largely absent in set number 1 will be immediately picked up here in set number 2, Cthulhu for the Solar Scarabs, and then the Morgan to couple with it. So immediately right out the gate, they're just going to show all their cards instantly. We do have the Cthulhu as the first 2 pickups here for the Solar Scarabs. They do have to give up that Yemoja on the opposite side of the board to Leviathans. A lot of picks still up for both these teams to go towards. A lot of the top mid laners, even Discordia has been making her way up in the ranks for the mid laners. We'll see if that does get locked in. Ardio. Again, teams have really been letting this Ardio through a lot more often than not, and looking at the win rate, it doesn't seem to have been having all that much success. Only 35% win rate of the 17 games that it's been played.
Yeah, not a huge win rate for it, but a lot of those games are in unfavored matchups, so to speak. So can't always put a ton of stock there. Tiamat goes through. Shinto's going to lock in this god basically every chance he gets, so it doesn't surprise me that's the direction the Leviathans want to go. I think this is a god that actually can kill Cthulhu pretty well, because what you want up against Cthulhu is a lot of Soul Reaver procs, and Tiamat does that. She's got her ultimate in the mage stance, 1, 2, jump in, dump your buttons. That's a ton of Soul Reaver procs, and that's what's going to kill the Cthulhu pretty easily from that position. So I'm interested to see what Zap is going to go. I still think you do have to pick something that is likely to go Chins, because I think that is pretty necessary, and when you've got likely 2 Cthulhus to worry about on the other side, I would probably be looking to make sure that we've got a comp that is good, not just can kill Cthulhu, but is actively good at it.
Second wave of bans starting up. It's Loki and Hunbats as the first 2 taken out. Surprising that really none of these jungles have had much priority up until this stage of the bans, but Set will get taken out by the Solar Scarabs because they've got their Hunter and their mid locked in. Doesn't seem like they want to give that to Scream in the jungle, so they'll just go ahead and ban it away in the second wave. Lots of picks still up for the Assassin tab, and really there's even still some of those warriors out there. Erlong Shen has been one of the only warriors that has really been making it through. Gilgamesh a couple of times, usually only with the Leviathans being drafted in their jungle, so we'll see where they elect to go as the final waves of bans are coming through. Still waiting on that last one by the Leviathans, really taking their time. But it's pretty much just that jungle and support that's left. Maybe they take a shot at the support, maybe take something like the Khepri away that still somehow made it all the way through but no, it will be a Camazotz ban for their final one.
I was thinking Khepri as well, but I think because of the Yemoja walls, it's so easy to just lock in that Khepri in that River's Rebuke and separate him from the team fight, kill him really easily, force his ultimate on himself, and if Khepri's ulting himself, it doesn't feel that bad. So maybe that's the reason why we see that being the call. Athena is interesting because I think this god does not do well up against Yemoja at all. I mean, Riptide is going to interrupt you in your preemptive strike warm-up. You don't have a way out of River's Rebuke outside of your ultimate. A little surprised that is the direction they want to go, because I think if they were willing to take a Yemoja-susceptible support, I would have preferred the Khepri in that spot, but trying to get some more CC. There isn't a lot of CC immunity for the Leviathans on demand, so it is good in that way. But I don't know. I just don't think Morgan's great Athena follow-up either. You know, you want CC and damage. You know, Athena Poseidon's always one of my favorites. Athena ESET, you know, those types of taunt into not only are you taking a bunch of damage, but we're keeping you locked in the same position for a long period of time. That's not the Morgan strength.
No, not really. Leviathans, they go with the Nemesis and the Heimdall for their last ones. Nemesis, the kind of tried and true Cthulhu killer, the tank killer of all things, and then the Heimdall, just something safe, which we typically have been seeing kind of go up against the set, something that you keep a little bit further back, something you don't have to box with necessarily. Maybe that's going to be their answer to go up against Cthulhu, and a final pick of the Daji means that this will lock the Athena into the Spore. I was thinking maybe there's a chance we see the Athena jungle, but instead it will be the Daji as the final pick here for the Solar Scarabs. Looking at these two compositions as we head towards the latter half of the game and kind of getting ready to go into game number 1 here. Which of these two compositions you kind of favoring a little more?
I mean, I love the Daji pick a lot for Scream. I think it's perfect up against Yemoja, Artio, Nemesis. None of those characters have any CC immunity. So I think the Daji is flawless pick in the jungle. I'm just so lukewarm on this Athena pick that I think I have to go with the Leviathans. But if Inbound can, you know, step up and impress on this Athena pick in a kind of comparison to what I'm expecting out of it, then I think the Scarabs have a really good shot. I think they have a lot going for them, but I just think that Yemoja for Rongu is going to control so much space. I don't see an easy way to shut him down except using this Daji, and then if you're doing that, then is the Nemesis just going to cut up your Cthulhu and cut up your Morgan transformation. Love the Nem pick into Cthulhu. It's something that we saw a lot when Cthulhu was meta last time, so I think the Leviathans have come in with a pretty good strategy.
Yeah, and this is one of the first looks maybe now after kind of the honeymoon phase of this meta coming back in. We get to see if the Leviathans have an answer to this Cthulhu composition, because we're getting ready to head into group stages. There's not a whole lot of changes kind of coming to any of these gods. This meta seems like it'll probably stick around for a little while, so maybe Leviathans have seemed to have found some kind of answer to it. We'll see if they can find that answer in game number 1 of this set, and we're getting ready to try and hop into it. Remember, it is an in-studio matchup. A lot of stakes on the line for the Leviathans. They need to win this set to secure themselves first seed. But I just got to let you guys know we do have a little bit of a remake here. So these teams are going to get these lobbies set up one more time. We're going to cut it to a break, and we'll bring you guys back when we're ready to jump in that first game. Hello and welcome back to the SPL. Sorry for the delays. We're just trying to get these teams ready to go here for game number 1 between Leviathans and Scarabs. We'll take one final look at the compositions in case you did miss those drafts coming through before we jump into game number 1. This Cthulhu 2 comp, man. Titans brought it out, and it looks like it's here to stay. You think maybe the Leviathans have the answer to it?
Yeah, I think that between the Nemesis and the Tiamat, those are two gods that I think can deal pretty well with Cthulhu. And if you can deal with one, you can likely deal with two. Though, of course, you only have one Nemesis ult. But I think that when it comes to Cthulhu, you want big things like Soul Reaver procs, which Tiamat has a lot of. Heimdall can build chins pretty well and feel pretty good with a bow-centric build. I don't know if that's exactly what Zap's going to go for in this game, but it should lend him pretty well to success in cutting down these big health bars.
Now, important question, Jagger. There's 3 different interpretations of the 2 Cthulhu name, and I need to know which school of field you're in for this one. Are you the Are you the 2 Thulu, the Cthulhu,
no,
or the Cthulhu 2?
I'm none of the above.
You're none of the above.
I'm saying it's a Cthulhu and a Morrigan on the same team. That's what I'm going.
But when there's 2 of them up at the same time.
There's a Cthulhu that is ulting, and then a Morrigan that is ulted and is also using Cthulhu ultimate.
It's a little longer.
It doesn't roll off the tongue as well.
It doesn't. But I'm not trying to throw out Cthulhu 2 in the midst of a team fight either, to be honest with you. Yeah, that's not my speed, I would say.
Not in your wheelhouse?
No, not in my wheelhouse.
But do you say Forp and Gorp?
Well, yeah, that way we know which Greater Scorpion we're talking about.
But there's...
What do you mean?
Those
There's
are
no
easier to say.
differentiation for Cthulhu 2. You know what I mean?
There's 2 of them up there.
I know. I can see that. My eyes are telling me as much. It's not the Scorpion issue is a different issue. You let Mifflin bait you. His face over there, he knows he got you. Yeah,
I did let Mifflin bait me into that one.
It happens to the best of us.
It just happens sometimes.
He'll do it to Dave this cast, I bet.
It's real unfortunate. And what really sucks is Bobby's the one who kind of led this on to begin with by even saying that he was the best pickleball player. Let's go ahead and jump right into game number 1 for the Atlantis Leviathans and the Solar Scarabs happening right now. We got Dave and Mifflin standing by.
Yeah, it does happen to the best of us, Aggro, and I know that because it happens to me, and I truly am the best of us. So thank you, Jask, for throwing it down to Dolson, Miff, and Doug. For the final game of the regular phase here, in Phase 3 of Season 8 of the SPL, we will have group stages coming up in a couple of weekends. We got one final game to resolve, Miff, and it is the Leviathans versus the Solar Scarabs. And what a phase it's been for the Scarabs, huh? This is a team that has 1 win, but got to have more 3-game sets than any other team in the league. 1 and 5 could very easily look like 2 and 4, 3 and 3 up at this point. Competitive team to say the least, and not a team that the Leviathans can overlook.
No, not at all, especially considering the Solar Scarabs aren't playing a Solar Scarabs draft right now. They're playing a very Tartarus Titans composition. I mean, double Cthulhu is potential inside the late game. Inbound, Ondas Athena is going to bring that global presence very early on. You've got great beads burning tools just from the Athena. Confound going to be able to do it all on her own, but if that is the case, Palau on the other side should be able to find something. So the Leviathans answer quickly with a double beads, or penta beads rather, all the way across the team composition here.
Yeah, plenty of beads for the Leviathans. That means plenty for the Solar Scarabs to take away. On the Blues Ultra graphic that we saw in the SPL waiting room this week, go check him out on Twitter if you haven't yet. Make some awesome graphics each week in the SPL. Stuart takes a hefty amount of damage from Zapman here. Blues showed us, as Baronic gets away, that Scream had a 96.6% kill participation rate last week in the SPL. And so, Miff, you get the idea that the Solar Scarabs team and a lot of the early pressure and hell, maybe even pressure throughout the game revolves around Scream.
I mean, that's been the narrative since he joined this squad. It was a lot of Scream hanging around the solo lane recently. He's shifted his attention more so towards mid inside the 2v2, but I don't know. If your jungler's putting up those kind of numbers, you're kind of hoping that the team's able to piggyback off of that and do a little bit more as the game rounds out. But as of now, slower pace, and I think we're used to seeing from the Solar Scarabs. Generally, Scream likes to get involved a little bit earlier than what we've seen so far. Between these two compositions, and I don't say this often about the Solar Scarabs.
I'm excited. This is a new one. Okay.
I think they scale much better in the late game. So if the Scarabs want to, they could try and slow this one down, a completely different style than what we're used to seeing from them, and try and play for that 30-minute mark.
Yeah, this Athena pick, Miff, I think is an interesting conversation piece within that individual conversation, because Rongyu on Yamoja is a tried and battle-tested duo. I mean, this is a pick that Rongyu has played a lot and a pick that Rongyu has looked good on a lot. Athena saw so much play right at the beginning of Season 8, has fallen by the wayside just a little bit here as of late, but Inbound is going to pick it up here in game number 1. Blue buff invade, that'll start off the fighting here in this game. Scream is here. Will he get off to 100% kill participation? No, he will not. Panatom will leave, and Yarkor will pick up the blue buff and head on out.
Man, that heal from the Ardio already showing its value.
Big.
I mean, it's like 10% of Panatom's HP returned to him instantly. He was down pretty low, and now off of the back of a blue buff invade is able to clear his own camps and heal right back on up to full. But I think Athena is a god that comes in and out of the meta as metas develop. She is very meta resilient in that when nobody knows what's happening on the map, Athena's kind of one of the best gods to go towards. You've got that global ultimate to make sure you're always involved in important team fights when you're not sure how these team fights are going to go. She's got great engage tools that are up very often, which is why we see her at the beginning of just about every year. But she starts to fall off once the meta develops a little bit more so, once you start to realize what it is exactly you're looking for. I would consider Athena kind of a jack-of-all-trades style of character, but she really is just good. I mean, we were making the conversation earlier that Hades is good because of a 2-second fear. A taunt that's up like every 10 seconds of the late game with a dash feels pretty nice as well.
Yeah, none of that feels bad. Certainly doesn't to me. Also, global utility, the ability to rotate throughout the map will be there for Inbound as this game rolls on through. Panatom on a less than conventional pick here, Nemesis. And I say less than conventional because unconventional would mean we rarely ever see the Nemesis. We have started to see Nem picked a little bit more often. The Mace tree changes have made the more ability-based build for Nemesis feel all right. And that has been one of the attempted answers for these Cthulhu compositions, hasn't it, Miff? When you have the ultimate for Panatom, the Nemesis ult, you're able to drop that on one of the two Cthulhus, and it feels like that gives you a better fighting chance in those team fights. So I don't know if you call it a counter, but it is an answer to help out in the team fights.
So this is a very similar composition that the Jade Dragons brought up against the Tartarus Titans, the Solar Scarabs acting as the Titans in this match, where Sanford Soccer was playing the Nemesis, they even had the Heimdall, and Panicat was struggling mightily to close gap against two Cthulhus. So instead of actually using your ultimate to strip defense from a Descended into Madness Cthulhu, I think the entire strategy in the late game team fight for Panatom is going to be acting as a shark in the backline, trying your hardest to find Baronic and ult him before he transforms.
Sure.
If you transform post-ult, you're coming in at about half HP. It's a lot harder for you to push yourself into that aggressive position, and all of a sudden the Solar Scarabs are going to find themselves hamstrung inside of these engagements. So I'm keeping my eyes on Panatom when the game does round out a little bit in the future. But that's not to say that you can't ult Cthulhu. That still is just a good answer. It's very similar to the Zhong Kui matchup in that you're just stripping defense and making a large target that much easier to kill. It's just very dependent on how well Zapman is performing at that point of the game.
Well, that's why we keep you around, Miff. That jungle nuance, that mindset in the fight. Yeah, that's what you bring to the table, right?
Oh, thanks, man. I try to sometimes. You got me blushing.
Look, you and we've been all over the place this weekend. Just as Scream is here in the mid lane, Shinto burned away, and Scream, the kill participation king, does it yet again. Shinto run down, beads used, doesn't matter. Scarabs on the board first.
Shinto's got to play very safe in the near future now that his beads are down. Still does have some CC immunity inside the kit, but it is conditional. You only have it inside of one of the stances. So this Tiamat is either going to be quadrupedal until those beads are back up or under immense risk for a Pal-Out hitting him in the near future. I think the Solar Scarabs, and Scream in particular, need to keep their eyes on mid and keep exploiting Shinto.
And he's good at biology. What can't this guy do? He's throwing quadrupedal.
Yeah, that means 4 feet.
That means 4 feet.
That's right.
See, I knew that one, but others might not have. Miff, I'm gassing you up.
Do you think there's anything that's tripedal?
I don't know, maybe.
Yeah, I don't think so.
Our cameras are tripedal.
Oh,
I guess that counts. Panatom.
Right.
Use the ult on the Stewart here, but hey, look, Athena's here. An Inbound will save the day. Those extra prots maybe just pushing Panatom away. And then, of course, you can see when Inbound is going to be crashing down to earth. Zapman, not completely dissuaded as of yet. If a little damage connects onto Stewart, an ultimate might find its way in there as well, but there are beads for the Izanami. So Zapman just with a little extra pressure. He's gone Crusher. First item Zapman has. He's sticking that Mace tree, get some of that attack speed. On the other side, though, Miff Stewart stuck something a little more tried and true in the Ikavale. Oh, that's a lot of damage onto Baronic, and there is no chance for the Morrigan. And the Leviathans will answer back, make it 1-1, 7 minutes in.
Red buff invade as well. I believe Zapman was able to strip away the purple from Stewart, and it's not often you see an Izanami hard stuck inside of her tower, is it? I mean, it has just been pressure for the Leviathans on the left side of the map this entire match, and now we can see it leveraged 7 minutes into the game. Double invade, a couple of kills as well, and now the gold lead starting to rear its head about 1,000 7 minutes in, and that's mainly just from the Leviathans finding some pressure. Somebody from the Solar Scarabs, namely Scream, needs to rotate over. Somebody has to alleviate Stewart's lane.
Doesn't this feel like just sort of a Yamoja difference, like that type of play where you get a Riptide in, the River's Rebuke to separate out the rest of the jungle that opens up Shinto to jump in, get the kill. That feels like something that only, I mean, I would say wrong you on Yamoja. We got some very good Yamoja players in this league. But only, it's like a Yamoja difference type of play there, and something that wrong you look to do as this game continues on. They've got the timers now, purple buff and red buff. The Leviathans do, so if you want to make a return play like that, certainly an option. Red buff respawning soon on the Leviathan side of the map. Riptide out from wrong you, but he's taunted back in by inbound. Panatom is here as well. This would be a 3 versus 3. But neither team really keen on it just yet. River's Rebuke halfway there. Otherwise, you might see wrong you walking a little bit further forward. Instead, Myth just a little poking and prodding in the mid lane. Unless Scream wants to engage onto Panatom here. We'll dash on out. Scream getting the better of that trade.
Yeah, here's the thing about Daji. She does not lose 1v1s against just about anybody in the game. So anytime that Scream is able to isolate Panatom or anyone else on the side of Leviathans, is going to be very happy with the trades that he's allowed to take. And I think we had a good look at it there. Panatom dropped to just below half HP, is able to heal himself back up with that Bumbas inside the jungle. But I don't know, good look at Scream's damage. Already a level lead for the Daji, for the Solar Scarabs, and wrong you're pretty far up.
Yeah, Scream is going to join the fray here on the left side of the map. Zapman uses his ult to get out and away. Nice stun from wrong you. Talk about Yamoja difference. That might be wrong you on Yamoja difference. A sneaky little stun over the wall, inch perfect, and Scream headed off to the hills, and Scream has powwow as well. Zapman has beads. That's a beautiful taunt from inbound. Now you see the re-engage. The River's Rebuke won't do much. Solar Scarabs have found one. The second gets pulled in, but just tanky enough is wrong you. He'll Riptide on out and away here. Inbound waiting on those cooldowns to get back. It looks like just far enough away. Inbound heads on over to the purple. It's not here, but a great rotation back into that fight after the Leviathans had escaped. The Scarabs find another.
Yeah, off the initial engagement, I was curious as to why the Solar Scarabs didn't just target wrong you. Sure, full Omi Yamoja, finding a support kill, not the most valuable, but certainly more guaranteed considering Zapman still had that ultimate available to escape. But Scream says, all right, if at first you don't succeed, just circle back, try again, and second time's the charm this time for the Daji, finding the second kill participation, and Scream maintaining 100%. Now that you've said that stat, that's all I can get in my head right now. I am watching Scream.
It is a good stat to have in mind. I don't imagine Scream, with the way that he's played already in this game, shies too far away from that 90s mark. Right now he's at 100. Got to be hard in a high kill game to maintain 100% kill participation, but for the time being, Scream has had his mark on both of the kills. This was the play that the Leviathans ran a moment ago where they were able to grab a pick onto Baronic. It was the red buff respawning, a slight overextension, but the red buff not there for Baronic this time, or it was there for Baronic. The play not there for the Leviathans this time. Instead, Scream and Baronic might be looking to the Pyromancer instead, and there's no reply here by the Leviathans, not even over on the Gold Fury, except for Hardcore, who pokes his head around the corner, so the Pyromancer will be reset.
Good look at Daji's damage yet again, though. Able to drop the Pyromancer to about 70% off of 3 auto attacks, just about. So had Yarkor not been that fast on the rotation in, could have very easily been the Solar Scarabs picking that one up and closing up that gap. That said, I mean, if you could try it, so can the Leviathans, and the Solar Scarabs nowhere to be seen.
Yeah, the Scarabs drop it because Hardcore had poked around the corner. And the Leviathans pick it right back up. Pyromancer over to the Levies. And Myth, that is a 1.3k gold lead already for the Leviathans. Small, but with how slow-paced this game has been, that just shows Leviathans maybe playing the map a little bit better. Small things like this, blue buff invades going the Leviathans' way. You put some pressure onto SOT. He has to back away. It is a 3-way split on the blue buff, so not wildly impactful. But keeping that gold out of SOT's pocket's important here. Leviathans
is dangerous.
Have a chance to answer onto the Gold Fury, but it is burning quickly, so the Solar Scarabs will get the early Gold Fury in this game. There is an envelopment happening, though. The Leviathans from the right side are going to Riptide in. Wrong, you watch out for that River's Rebuke. Ultimate used by inbound, and he will get away. Up into the powwow goes Scream. Wrong, you uses the beads. And it is Gold Fury and out for the Solar Scarabs.
Scarabs needed that one. The gold gap closed up a fair bit now, but all that time he spent confirming the objective and then retreating to the left side of the map. Shinto spent pushing mid, able to strip away that tier 1 mid tower, opening up the map a very large amount. Now the Solar Scarabs, if they want to go for cheeky Pyromancer or Gold Fury plays, really only have the opportunity to retreat towards their side lane as Stewart, in some trouble, forces the Heavenly
Whoa, good
Sprint out.
taunt. That's a good taunt from inbound. Panatom with the shielding. We'll be able to walk away. There's still a tier 1 tower here. We're dancing around between tier 1 and tier 2, but the tier 1 still has to be retreated from. Some nice riptides from Rongyu. We'll usher on out the Leviathans here. So Panatom playing with fire just a bit there. Hasn't gone back to spend that gold in a little bit of time, so you'll see a nice little power spike likely here for Panatom. But Scream's still on the map, looking towards mid lane. Have seen some of those beads, Myth, get stripped away a time or two, but has been difficult to find beadsless targets for the Solar Scarabs in the early parts of this game.
No, they haven't been playing around the mid lane too often. Baronk's been left to free farm and has not been doing a great job of it at this point, 2 levels down over his contemporary in Shinto. And now, I'd argue the Solar Scarabs are really reliant on inbound to start burning these beads. And the only way inbound does that is if the rest of his team has enough damage to force threat. Athena can't do it all on her own, and if Scream is utilizing Pal-Out to burn the beads, you've lost your best CC tool.
Oh, engaged by the purple buff. Has that
Great
man
taunt.
overstayed? He's taunted out of the Bifrost. And inbound will grab the second kill of the game on the Athena. And simple as you like. Walks in, taunts out, Zapman down, a bit overextended. And Stewart will get his purple buff anyway at the end of the day. And it looks like Zapman Myth building into what has become more of a standard build, at least on Heimdall, Crusher, into Aussie, into something like the Wind Demon a little bit further down. And so all remains, I guess for lack of a better word, I'll use standard a second time, remains standard for Zapman. Panatom.
Oh, he's
Under
in
a
trouble.
bit of chase here. Inbound, will ult in. It's a blink away from Panatom to the body block. Slow him right on down. Good by Panatom, I think. Yeah, it'll take a little bit longer. And Baronic's able to rotate in and help split this kill with the rest of his team.
Now 4 members of the Scarabs grouped up on the right-hand side. So early in the game, can't really threaten the Fire Giant just yet, but might be able to find a couple more picks. Given this time, though, we can take a peek at inbound's build, Witchblade. Very early on, trying to deal with the auto attacks of the Leviathans, so Zapman and Panatom going to struggle a little bit more so in the team fight proper. I like that adaptation from this Athena. She is always going to be playing aggressive. She's always going to be playing in your face, so that passive is always going to be applied to anybody that decides to step up on the Leviathans.
Well, Mifflin, we're able to update ourselves on some actives, some relics picked up here as well. Phantom added in for inbound. And so Rongyu just threatening enough with that River's Rebuke that a Phantom suddenly becomes necessary here. And it's not an active, but I also want to look at the build here for Shinto, because Chronos Pendant plus Soul Gem has been standard, it feels like, out of the mid lane, but an Ethereal Staff, a bit of a pivot from normal from the mid lane builds that we've seen.
Now he's going to be allowed to play very aggressive. I mean, that is a large infusion of HP. It helps out your burst damage a little bit as well. So now he could just jump in and then stay in, and you're just trying to DPS race whoever's in front of you. As long as it isn't Scream, you're probably winning that race, is Shinto, with a 1-level lead over Veronica at this point, who has elected to go for a pretty slow build in his own right. Generally, you want to get the Soul Gem, the Soul Reavers, the Polynomicons online very quickly on the Morrigan, but instead, a little bit more so standard as far as mages as a whole are concerned, not so standard for the Morrigan herself. Doom Orb, Spear of Desolation, and Divine Ruin.
Luckily for Zapman, this taunt out of the Bifrost won't stick. And he'll head on back, pick up his lane Scorpion. So as I mentioned, Zapman into what looks like it'll be a Wind Demon completed right up next. So then you wonder if at some point in Myth, SOT feels obligated to add a Spectral Armor into that back pocket. Because we've seen some of the damage that crit Heimdall can swing out. And if that is going to be the target that is running down Zapman, the Cthulhu, then a Spectral Armor maybe at some point in this build might feel good. Rongyu, you call him overextended, but maybe it's inbound. Who's on the wrong side of the map? Panatom, Shinto. They're both here to help out their teammates. River's Rebuke is perfect. It separates everyone from SOT. And the first Cthulhu is gone in this fight. The second is now joined to the fray. A taunt back through from inbound. Keeps Rongyu right in the thick of it. But Zapman rotates it, and look at the damage pouring into the Solar Scarabs. Inbound will do his best to retreat on out. but he will be locked in place. Killing spree for Shinto. No good on this fight from the Scarabs.
And now the Leviathans grouped up are able to shut down Baronic on the tail end. Credit to Zapman for this one. 17 minutes in. Could be a Fire Giant. You've got the healing from Rongyu. 20 seconds on the nearest respawn, and Inbound won't have the ultimate available when he does get back up. Yeah, no, the Solar Scarabs just have to let this one go. SOT takes way too much damage in the initial. It descends into madness at about 50% HP, which is exactly what we were talking about earlier on. I thought it was going to be Baronic doing that, but instead Cthulhu. A little bit slow on the uptake. Solar Scarabs, though, at least able to pick up a consolation prize, and it doesn't feel great. Gold Fury goes to the Chaos, but Fire and Pyro heads to the Order.
Leviathans just bought their time. They looked for the fight that worked for them, and that fight worked for them, and it worked hard. You're now 2,000 gold ahead of the Solar Scarabs. With only the second tower falling on the Solar Scarab side of the map, so this is going to be a big gold swing here over the next 4.5 or so minutes for the Atlantis Leviathans. Now, such a tough moment where the start of that fight, if you bring up SOT getting melted really low, I think it was a brilliant River's Rebuke from Rongyu where you keep SOT in place and then nobody can get in there and help out. Phantom got used, but it looked like a kind of middling effect there on that one. And a big swing in that fight for Zapman as well, who's able to grab a kill, grab an assist, get the wheels turning on this Heimdall just a little bit as well. And so it's all about what you're able to do over the next couple minutes if the Leviathans. Doesn't help if Hardcore dies here early in the mid lane. Hardcore will get pulled in, but we'll shrug it off. And so the Powwows now on cooldown for Scream.
Yeah, can't believe he just uses that ability. I mean, full stop. You're not shutting down an Artio with Fire Giant at this point with that many teammates in mid. The Solar Scarabs really just was Inbound and Scream ready to follow up on that one. So Yarkor says, word, go ahead, pull me in. Doesn't even use the beads.
Zapman jumped on. Should be a dead Heimdall here. Aegis will get used, but the Bifrost will not be reached. The rest of the Leviathans trying to make the Solar Scarabs pay, but Inbound has been on point with the taunt so far this game, and another one connects. Riptide walked through by Rongyu. Another nice knock-up on the back end from SOT, and a 2-kill swing for the Solar Scarabs on an overextension from Zapman might stall out this Fire Giant push, but for the Leviathans looking for more.
They are. Yarkor and Rongyu taunted in. Baronic playing a little bit too far away to follow up, but Scream is not, and picks up Rongyu.
Wow, that's massive from Shinto. Jumps into the back line, gets the first kill of the fight onto SOT, and the health bars are about halfway there for everyone but Shinto in this fight. It is Tiamat's time to go big. And a double kill for the mid laner will hit its mark. Hardcore walks through. Powwows, perfect. Solar Scarabs, they'll grab themselves a deicide 20 minutes in.
The Leviathan's playing a little too casually at this point. Yarkor going to try his best to turn a bad situation into a better one, but Scream finishes him off. Double kill to the jungler. And the Leviathans were not grouped up. And okay, all right. I thought the portal was a little bit closer. Maybe Zapman could have made a heroic play.
Well, the health bars are so low, he can hang out, right?
Yeah, if anyone shows up, I'm pretty sure Gallarhorn would have just killed Scream. So Zapman makes the aggressive play, but realizing he's not near enough people, he's just going to go ahead and reset, not even able to pick up that tier 2 tower. So Bifrost going to be on like a 140-second cooldown or something crazy like that. And the Leviathans, for their hubris, lose out on a Fire Giant.
Admittedly, I was so surprised to after you lose 2 members, the Leviathans go back in. But Shinto nearly makes the big play there. Just a little bit more health. Farcourt survived. Well, he survived a long time, but was able to stick in that fight instead of running away just a little bit longer. Actually, is maybe a play that pays off for the Leviathans. But I think you have to shine a great light on the Solar Scarabs because I'm setting up that Fire Giant push as how the Leviathans break this game open. In game 1, it's 2,000 gold in the lead after securing the objective, but then you've got 5 or 6 towers to take down. This is a 1v1 between Zapman and Inbound. This is a 3v1 over here against Rongyu. River's Rebuke gets thrown out. Panatom is rounding the corner. Powwow from Scream up in the air. Rongyu taunted through. Again, another kind of uncharacteristic split-up fight from the Leviathans. Baronic finds the first. SOT descends into madness as he walks forward in the mid lane. Hardcore will back away, and another pick onto the Leviathans gives the Scarabs the advantage.
It just feels like the Leviathans are saying, you won't go on us, and the Scarabs have done it every time. Inbound takes a lot of damage here. Zapman rejoins the fight, and well, now it's time for the Scarabs to retreat.
Whoa.
Panatom in.
Panatom blinks forward. Big stun from Baronic, but a better stun from Hardcore deleted or 2 members of the Solar Scarabs. The punch back from the Leviathans is here, and it is quick. Shinto rips through the health bar of Stewart, and now it's 6-2-3 on the Tiamat. And Fire Giant, few seconds away from respawning, won't be on the menu just yet, but the Leviathans, they'll make me pay for doubting them for a moment there. They'll grab a tier 2 tower in mid.
Gold lead still is pretty paltry at this point. Even this tier 2 tower is only going to push it to just over 3,000. 22 minutes in, that's not too bad of a deficit for the Solar Scarabs to be playing at, but this has been a very strangely paced game. The Leviathans making some uncharacteristic mistakes, getting caught out of position, wrong view, essentially playing solo agent in a 1v3, is surprised when the 4th guy from the Scarabs shows up, and
right.
Nobody from the Leviathans there to help him is going to fall down, but as you said, the counterpunch was good.
Panatom's behind SOT here. The Oni Fury is the objective. I'd be hard-pressed to think we're fighting over this at this point in this game. The Solar Scarabs agree. So actually interesting, we were pretty close to even, but suddenly the gold lead has exploded for the Leviathans. It was like 1 or 2,000 just a moment ago, and the Leviathans on the back end of a nice fight in mid. It would have really opened things up going into the next FG.
Inbound is trying to set up the defensive positioning around the Fire Giant. Solar Scarabs are going to dig in their heels here, not willing to let another Fire Giant go down for free. And now's the time where this draft for the Scarabs really is starting to hit the ground, all right? I mean, you've got double Cthulhu as an option. You've got double Daji, as we saw in that last engagement. If you're worried about your beads burning power, not much is going to be better than 2 Palaus ringing through the team fight. You've got some decent targets that you can look for the next 30 or so seconds. Panatom's bead's still down, no CC immunity in the kit. Zatman's bead's still down, would at least force the ultimate, but the Leviathans show up first, and it's burning quick.
505 for Scream, 100% kill participation if we're keeping that thread of thinking alive. SOT walks forward, stun onto SOT. Fire Giant goes to the Leviathans, but SOT's got something to say about it. And his ult key is what he's got to say. Scream finds his way into the back. Palau up, big taunt in from inbound, but Zatman's the only one stunned, but nobody's there to put damage onto the Heimdall. Zatman turns the damage right back around, and inbound the first to fall.
Now it's a pull back in, and Baronic is at least able to take the Fire Giant off the ADC, but at the cost of his own life. SOT
God, what is Hardcore
still
doing?
in retreat, and Yarkor, he's doing no wrong.
Hardcore has just been controlling these two. Stewart and SOT have not been able to step forward. Double kill for Shinto. SOT stunned beneath the Phoenix, and the Leviathans surge forward into the base of the Solar Scarabs.
Meanwhile, Tiamat's minions have been working through mid, so the Leviathans can go straight for that Phoenix. Don't have to concern themselves with this tier 2 on the right, but with so much time to work with, why not
Don't have Zatman.
go for the tier 2 tower? Yeah, Zatman dead for 30 does hurt your odds a little bit here, but 8 seconds on inbound, 20 seconds on Baronic. I think the Leviathans could very easily walk away at least 1 Phoenix here.
If you think it's a good idea to give Shinto Tiamat,
No.
I don't
did you
think-
see that damage it did to SOT?
yeah, I don't think it is either. Yeah, Cthulhu is taking a little over half of his HP in damage, and the rest of the Solar Scarabs taking a whole lot more. Big double Pala, but the Riptide from Rongyu is beautiful, sends him right back out of the stun. There wasn't much follow-up from the Scarabs anyway. Shinto with his 9th of the game. Finally, a Phoenix falls. Could be 10 around the corner if you're giving it to the Tiamat, but no, it's Panatom in the kill feed.
Stewart has respawned, so 3 members of the Scarabs remain standing to defend subsequent Phoenixes, and the left side should be where the Leviathans are headed, as the minion wave is already pushed up. But Zatman's running down mid, and he's bringing the wave with them. Seems like the Leviathans got their eyes on the center.
They sure do. And so if Shinto, again, lets a volley of damage fly, just under half of the health bar of SOT is what I was referencing when Shinto is able to do that. But that is over half HP on anyone else here in this game if Shinto is able to hit that quick burst of damage. Gross, to say the absolute least, from the Leviathans and their mid laner. And it feels like it's been a protect the Shinto style of composition. Zatman at 2, 4, and 5. Everyone else pretty low as far as kill numbers go, and then there's Shinto with 9. And so if you're protecting this Tiamat, hell, Shinto might not even need protection. He's been jumping in more times than not. So the Leviathan's Myth in a fantastic spot here. You get mid, you get right. You got a minute and a half left on this Fire Giant power play. looking at a Game 1 win for the Atlantis Leviathans.
I'm glad you said it. So I'm going to go ahead and start evaluating some of the stats that I'm looking at right now. Solar Scarabs, Jungler Scream, 5, 0, and 6, 100% affected kills, second highest damage in the entire lobby. This poor guy is trying to drag a train with his legs, man. Like, he can't do it. The Solar Scarabs need to play up to his level if they want to win, because right now Scream is doing the most. Sure, he's being outdamaged by Shinto, who has a great composition built around him, 9, 2, and 5 in his own right, but you got to put some respect on this Daji. He is trying his best.
And that is maybe where the game can still hinge for the Solar Scarabs if Scream is able to get a pull. I was going to say on the
Don't ask anything of Scream anymore. He's doing enough.
Right. Well, I'm saying the avenue for a win is like the right delete key pressed by Scream. And unfortunately, it seems like the only delete key that's going to make a statement is if you get it onto Shinto. But Shinto's been dealing more damage than anyone's been able to touch him with on any of these engagements, except for when he willingly walks in to the mire from SOT. That's a taunt in onto Wrong You. Not loving your Yamoja being that low at the onset of the fight. Don't love Scream being jumped on in the back line either. Keep your eyes on the Tiamat. That's where all the winning has been happening for the Leviathans. Panatom opens this one up with a kill onto SOT. Zapman kiting his way right on back and away. Shinto deep in the back line of this fight, but it's Wrong You who is in the kill column once more. Stewart will dash away from the rest of this fight, but the Leviathans regroup. They put their feet underneath them. They'll walk into the base, and they'll take Game 1.
Yarkor went massive in that engagement. Just says, all right, if Scream's the problem, I'm going to sit on him. I know triple kill for Panatom, but this Artio was a menace.
Absolute menace. Panatom is able to notch a few kills with a triple at the end of the day. The Leviathans buy their time. A back and forth affair at the beginning, but anything but by the end of it, the Atlantis Leviathans run away with Game 1.
The Solar Scarabs got what they were aiming for. They tried to find that late game team fight. They were given a second chance at life after they stopped that initial Fire Giant push. They regrouped, and they just weren't able to do it. We didn't see really a double Cthulhu happen. We saw maybe one good play from Baronic where he transforms into the Daji and was able to find 2 or 3 pulls after the initial engagement from Scream, but the Morrigan play left some to be desired.
I agree. I mean, there was, one fight maybe where we saw the power of Morrigan and Cthulhu used in conjunction, and that was when SOT got walled off anyway and died, and then later on a second Cthulhu came in. It felt like there were no double Cthulhus at the same time throughout that game. Kind of didn't matter when Shinto was doing what he was doing on the Tiamat and the rest of the Leviathans were doing what they were doing. Game number 1 to the Atlantis Leviathans. Will they make it a 2-0? Stick around and find out.
I'll take off my jacket for this one. Oh, dude, this. No, I know he was supposed to take you out last weekend, but he got busy.
Hello and welcome back to the SPL here at the desk for the SMITE Pro League. If you haven't gotten any of your SPL merch just yet, make sure to go over to shop.smiteproleague.com to go ahead and pick up any of the SPL merch that we have available, whether you just want something just that represents the SPL in general with our hoodies or our t-shirts, or any of the team merch available there. Go to shop.smiteproleague.com to pick that one up. Thank you so much to our sponsor, Insight Apparel, for bringing all of that over to us, and for all of you at home to pick that up here. Game number 1, Atlantis Leviathans able to take down the Solar Scarabs, and seemed pretty convincing fashion there. I mean, this Nemesis Tiamat you were talking up big for him. I'm inclined to believe you after that one, man. They just shredded through that team.
I mean, how many games has it looked like Cthulhu is just totally unstoppable? And no team can deal with it. You know, it just goes through team fights, and no one does significant damage to it. But how many times in that game did Solar Troll just get absolutely popped as soon as he started going in? And for me, you know, it is the Nemesis, it is the Tiamat. It's just too much whenever you let Shinto get this god. Shinto just did so much. They just continued the Scarabs. They kill Zap in almost every fight. And a lot of teams do this. It's not just the Scarabs. That's by design. Like, that's what this team is designed to do. Just as Zap was doing with the Pittsburgh Knights and SK Gaming when he was dying for Paul in the team fights, his job is to just die for Shinto and letting Shinto free farm. And he does that really well. He understands his role really well. Then it's a winning formula for the Leviathans.
And he's the one dangling the dollar bill at the end of the fishing hook saying, hey, come on, come and get me right now. Come on. All right, cool. You got the dollar bill. You got Zapman, but he's got an entire team right behind him. And I mean, there was one moment over at that left side. Zapman dies very early in the fight. They get another pick, and now it's Leviathans 3 versus 5. Almost any other sensible team goes, okay, we're down 3-5. Can't win this fight. Let's leave. These guys dive back in, and they kill 2 before they go down in a fight that they probably shouldn't have even taken to begin with. Not just that, a fight they probably shouldn't have even been able to take any lives if they do go with that. But the Leviathans able to come out on top here in game number 1, top of the damage charts by a country mile here for Shinto. 30,000, almost 31K player damage on this Tiamat. And I'm going to revise this from things I've learned today to being things I've been reminded of here today. And that's you don't give Shinto Tiamat because Tiamat does a ton of damage, and he's just a stellar player on this god and really any of these top mages.
Yeah, it's just tough to stop. I mean, Yarkor was also a huge factor in that game. His RDO was consistently zoning out Stewart. Just was never able to put any real threat onto that RDO. I think the backline for the Scarabs in that game struggled pretty heavily. Both Stewart and Baronic were fairly ineffective in what they were trying to do. So whether it's switching up what you're going up against, I mean, they got a lot of comfort picks on the Leviathan side, right? I mean, they just got Ronnie Yamoja, they got Shinto Tiamat, they got Yarkor RDO, they got Zap Heimdall. Those are all signature picks for their guys, and then Panatom looked really good on the Nemesis. So I think that now if you're the Scarabs, you're in a pretty tough spot in picks and bans because you went with your strategy. Leviathan seemed very ready for it. You know, maybe they could do the same thing and ban Tiamat. Hope they don't top 3 the Nemesis and ban it in the second phase, but I just think you have to switch it up entirely.
Maybe it's time to go back to the drawing board for the Scarabs. Maybe go back to a little bit more of their play style, because I think Mifflin brought up in the cast, it just felt like a very Tartarus Titan style of composition.
Yep.
And it didn't seem like the Solar Scarabs were quite prepared in order to take on this team. Let's go into picks and bans for game number 2 and see if things shake up in our second game of the day. Leviathans up with this 1-0. They get one more win, and that's it. It's all said and done for them. They take the 2-0. They take the first seed. Solar Scarabs, they want to try and at least play maybe spoiler to them.
Yeah, I think that they want to get some momentum at the very least going into the group stages because the Solar Scarabs team is one that's given a lot of top teams problems, but they haven't been able to beat. I think that giving themselves that confidence going into the group stages that, hey, we really can do it, we really can beat a top 5 team would probably help their mental game moving forward.
The first ban coming out is going to be Geb from the Atlantis Leviathans, making sure to keep a top support off the charts for just about any team out there. Odin as well, just like game number 1, will be banned here in game number 2 by the Solar Scarabs. And we see a lot of similarities in the draft. No, this time, instead of the Tsukuyomi that was banned by the Leviathans in game number 1, they're going to take the Morgan off the table. Maybe this is them just saying, you know what, sure we can beat it, but we really don't want to have to do that kind of nonsense again.
Exactly. We don't want to have to worry about it. And maybe this is just preemptively anticipating changes from the Scarabs, which they do make. They go with the RDO ban this time around instead. So taking that out of Yarkor's hands, like I said, Stewart was just completely neutralized in this game because of RDO for Yarkor. So it makes sense to me to have the Scarabs take it away.
And the amount of times that we saw Yarkor just zoning 2 people by himself. I mean, there was the one fight near the end of the game where he'd thrown the solo laner and the hunter just completely out of the room to said, okay, I dare you guys to fight me. I'm at your Phoenix while the rest of my team is still trying to get out of the jungle by the tier 2 tower. I mean, Yarkor had total control on this RDO in game number 1. Tsukiyomi will still be banned by the Leviathans. That does leave Sylvanas open. One of the gods that did get through, Yamoja, namely, is still open for both of these teams. And the Nike ban on the opposite side, there's a lot of power picks left open for both these teams.
Yeah, I feel like Yamoja is still where I would go. I mean, Sylvanas obviously very good for inbound, but I think Yamoja is just so strong. I can't imagine going a different direction. So that is the pick there for Rongyu. As expected, Yamoja is going to be his selection. Scarabs don't have to go Sylvanas now, top 2. You probably do have to get it top 3, assuming the Leviathans will ban it. But this gives you an opportunity to go with Cthulhu Tiamat. I think would be a pretty good top 2 in this position for the Scarabs if they really feel like Cthulhu is really strong. If they feel like they needed the Morrigan in order to enable that Cthulhu selection, then you could go Tiamat something else. But I'm just not super interested in giving Shinto Tiamat again.
No, after a 31k player damage game number 1, I don't think any team should be giving a Tiamat back over to the Leviathans, and especially not giving that over to Shinto. Scarabs have not made their selections just yet. They got 2 of them to grab here. Tiamat being the one up at the top of your forefront for it, because the support is already locked in for Leviathans. The Sylvanas, while it makes sense to grab in your top 3, maybe not necessary here in this top 2 spot. That could go for their jungler, or the fact that Ullr still got left open. With all the things that were changed down, that will be a quick first pickup here for the Scarabs in their first pick.
I think you go Ullr Tiamat, right? I mean, what else makes a whole lot of sense to me? Yeah, that's got to be the pick. So good selections there by the Scarabs. Their backline really struggled in game 1. You top 2 both of their gods now in game 2. Get 2 of the best, if not the 2 best picks in your respective roles. Got to make it happen off these 2. I mean, the ball is now in Stuart and Baranik's hands.
And instead of the Cthulhu for the Scarabs, now it'll go over to the hands of Yarkor on the Leviathan. So it's going to be the frontliners locked in for this Atlantis Leviathans team. They can still pick one of their backliners in the way of their mage. Maybe save. We've been seeing mostly those hunter picks have been going for Zapman for the latter half of the draft. They usually been getting some of their other picks earlier on, whether it be what Shinto or Panatom this time will be up for them to determine. Still a lot of strong junglers on the table. Hardly any of them got touched at all. Only the Tsukiyomi was banned, and that's been more often going to SOT.
Yeah, exactly. I think that, I was going to say, I'd probably expect Shinto's pick to go in here, and Raijin just continues to be a comfort pick for him. I mean, if you've got another mid lane pick, I'd assume Shinto does. Got something else working in the oven for group stages. There's no reason to show it now. You know, just pick the same thing you've been playing all year, that you've been really good on all year. There's no reason to make teams think about anything else, make them think that you're going to be picking Raijin at group stages no matter what. So that makes total sense. Scarabs in this position. Sylvanas still open. It's what we talked about earlier. I don't really love Sylvanas up against Raijin. I think he really kites you very well. Very easy for him to put his damage on you from outside of ultimate range. And that's really difficult to deal with as Sylvanas. So if someone's not in ultimate range from you, you have to land a blind pull, and as good as at those as inbound is, it's not what you want to be relying on. Hercules is interesting though, because I think this can flex. I mean, Solo Troll can certainly play it in solo. Inbound has looked very good on it in limited reps and support. So Scarabs get some flexibility here with this pick.
It has been some time since we've seen Inbound take this god in that support role. In more recent times, it has been SOT taking that solo, but that does leave some ambiguity up for this team. Now we jump into the second round of bans. Heimdall going to be banned away by the Solar Scarabs. Zapman, as much as they were able to kill Zapman, when Zapman is so comfortably using his teleport to go from fountain to enemy's tier 2 tower line to continue a split push that he started before a team fight, his team lose the team fight, restarts a team fight, and then he says, all right guys, we're just going to jump back right in the fight and just like nothing ever happened. So maybe a smart ban to take that one away. Izanami also banned, and then the Hunbots on the other side by Leviathans, and a Terra that got hovered by the Scarabs before that second round of bans came through. This time they'll ban it away.
Yeah, I like the split bans here, and from the Leviathans in this case, you take away 2 really good team fighting gods, and you try and lend your strength more towards that team fight as it is. The Leviathans have 3 gods that are phenomenal at the team fight stage. This way you can try and make sure the Scarabs aren't able to match you in that same regard with their picks. So I've got no problem with Cthulhu Raijin then banning the Terra Hun Bats. I think that makes some sense. And the Scarabs actually give up their ambiguity here, going Arthur, in order to get Scream his final counter pick. And as weird as it looks, it does make some sense because Arthur already knows his lane matchup, so it's not like the Leviathans are going to switch up their solo laner based on knowing who's going to be over there.
No way Zap does it twice. No way that Zap
There's
does
a way. I think there's a way.
Maybe only Zapman. Other hunters have teased the Charybdis, and that was after Zapman had already played it once, but didn't find any kills that game. He essentially just became a lightning rod of damage and tried to live for as long as he could, was kind of just the name of the game in late game fights for that Charybdis, but that one will be passed up, at least for the moment. Camazotz will be the selection here for Leviathans to be taken into the jungle there for Panatom, and last selection for Leviathan. Still waiting for what Zapman's going to lock in. The Charybdis that got hovered, it makes me think that he might do it here, but no, he will go ahead and squash those doubts. It will be on her for the last pick of Leviathans.
Very few on her games so far this phase, only 2 with a 50-50 win rate. I do think that this does make some sense, though, because the Leviathans with that Camazotz pick immediately become a little bit CC light. Raijin has CC in the mid lane, but it's not really hard CC, and if you're using it for hard CC, you don't have any damage with that Tycho Trump. So it's not easy to get CC there. Cthulhu, pretty CC light the majority of the time. Yamoja, inconsistent. So you're looking at a very CC light composition, and so having someone that actually puts pressure on beads is a really good look here out of your ADC role. So I like the on her pickup for Zap. Erlong Shen for Scream on the other side. As I was just saying, there's not a lot of crowd control that is going to be guaranteed used in that mid 3v3. Erlong Shen, when he doesn't get crowd controlled, can do a lot of damage and put in a lot of work. So lots of CC on the other end for the Solar Scarabs. Everyone packing a good amount. You got this Erlong Shen now that can kind of carry you through the early game. The Scarabs have to get ahead early in this game is the way I'm looking at it, because Ullr, Hercules, Erlong Shen, all pretty early game oriented. Ullr less so than he used to be, but still would anticipate some lane dominance here from Stu. Think that this Tiamat for Baronic is the late game powerhouse. The rest of the 4 picks are there to get her to that point.
And if I'm looking at this team here, I'm seeing 4 physicals lined out on the side of the Scarabs, and we've been seeing consistently that even some of these supports have been foregoing the Gauntlet of Thieves when they're running against these kinds of comps. They either go the Sovereignty, or with the instance of like Emojas and Sylvanas, the Lotus Crown into the Sovereignty immediately afterwards. So tons of physical defense. So they're putting a lot of bets on Baronic to do a lot of the damage late game, and maybe try and get this early game going here for the Solar Scares. That mid 3v3 is going to be where a lot of that action is going to be seen with. I mean, this Erlong Shen, great at closing gaps by way of the 72 transformations, and also the pin, being able to get a nice long-range CC to try and set up here for his team.
The main concern I have now is that I don't think, yes, you have the Tiamat to deal with the Cthulhu. We talked about that last game as a potential counter matchup, but the Ullr build isn't great at cutting down at someone like a Cthulhu. So how well can Yarkor be controlled by Baronic in particular?
And let's see how well they can do. Game number 2 between the Leviathans and the Scarabs. It's all on the lines here for Leviathans. Can they take it? Let's find out.
Here's the reason the Leviathans won't take it, is because the Solar Scarabs win 90% of the game 2s that they play in. It feels like we're destined for a game 3 every time the Solar Scarabs play. We're steamrolling in that direction. Here is some data myth, though, that kind of lends itself to a 2-0 for the Leviathans.
Okay.
And it's that Shinto on Raijin has lost like once or twice ever. Like, this is a very good pick for Shinto, and he's already feeling himself clearly a little bit in this set after an incredible game 1 on the Tiamat.
Yeah, I mean, this draft from Leviathans, if the game goes to the exact same point that we saw last time, like 25 minutes in, the argument in game 1 was that the Solar Scarabs should have been hitting their stride. I'd argue now that the Leviathans have got a very, very nice scaling team composition that's going to show up a lot in the 5v5. Yarkor creates space, Shinto deals damage, or maybe we get involved right now. Zetman leaps in, does not find it, but inbound taking some damage.
Nearly dodged the stun.
Oh, he's done.
Dodges
He's done.
the auto attack.
Oh!
Oh, 2 autos miss. The last
No.
one is there, and those 2 auto attacks missing is the difference between life and death from inbound. Slides to
What?
the right.
No!
Oh, then he blinks forward. Zapman uses the beads. This is chaos in the duo lane, and Rongyu suddenly gets stunned. And we will get to breathe after Zapman and Rongyu nearly get a kill and then nearly die.
That what a crazy turnaround inbound. Essentially lost the lane right there, and then immediately brings it back to an even state as Rongyu nearly dies.
Yes, this foot.
What was that? Yeah, that's the best way to describe it. That is a contentious duo.
I'm in the middle of starting a sentence, then that happens. Please, for the love of God, give me a moment here, inbound and wrong you. This is the type of pick we like seeing inbound on, though, right? I mean, it feels like when the Solar Scarabs had a hard time getting their feet underneath themselves earlier on in Season 8, it was always when inbound ended up going to picks like this, like the Hercules, where you're able to play a little bit more aggressively, a little bit more forward in the lane, when it felt like the duo lane was a little more comfortable for the Solar Scarabs. So I like the pick here for inbound. It's off to a wild start already. Could have died, also could have gotten a kill. And unfortunately might still die, because Panatom is here. Was he spotted out? Think he was. So Panatom will head on out.
Yeah, just trying to rear his head and see if maybe there's an opportunity to look towards this purple buff invade as inbound, just barely off the mark yet again. Any pull he finds now would at least force the beads of Wrong You. Any pull on a Zapman probably forces the life. So now, what's this Hercules got to do? Just buy some time and try and get this purple.
Purple buff dropped and secured by Stewart. And Myth, I'm glad we go over to the solo lane here. Hardcore has Cthulhu this time. For the first time in what feels like forever, there's no Morrigan or Aphrodite with the Cthulhu. As we've already mentioned, Shinto on Raijin. And I'll hold that thought as what looks like a 3 versus 2 could be happening here. Can Hardcore buy enough time? He's bought a little bit, dashes away, survives.
Rip.
But not for much longer. Scream ticks him on down. Thanks to the Mannequin Scepter, Panatom is here. Need to get a return kill. If you're the Leviathans, and it's Panatom who picks it up 1 for 1, but first blood bounty feels good for the Solar Scarabs.
Scream now, seeing if maybe he can keep that damage rolling out, trying to leverage it early as inbound finds himself in a familiar position. Goes back in.
Goes back in, and he gets the kill. Wrong You will hit the auto attacks and put down inbound. I mean, it was only a matter of time before one of these
Oh,
dual
he's
lanes
popping off.
suffered a
Look
death.
at him.
He's feeling good, man. He blinks back in, gets the kill for himself. And that feels great because you give the kill over to Wrong You on the other side, so it could have been a lot worse. And inbound making a big play early in this set.
So inbound blinked back into an engagement in a 2v2 with less than 28 HP, turns it around, and trades out his own life for Zapman's. That is a high-value trade that Bobby was able to find early on, and now some parity in the kill column. 2-2 is where it stands with the Solar Scarabs find themselves in the lead, nearly 1,000 gold 4 minutes in.
And so, we will see if over the next few minutes the fireworks continue. Zapman still has beads, still has leap, still has pillar, still has everything. And it's kind of the game of chicken here happening in the duo lane. If inbound hits the pole, Zapman uses the beads. And I guess it makes sense. Look, I mean, you got Stewart on Uul, you got inbound on Hercules. Talk about any of the CC connecting like that did onto Zapman.
Okay.
Myth, you baited us.
What? Hold on, it's happening.
He drops the excavate, but Panatom is here this time. Unfortunately, no get out of jail free card for inbound this time.
Jesus. I feel like I'm working out right now or something. I'm moving metal, dude. I can't catch my breath.
Is that what we call it, moving metal?
I mean, that's what I call it.
What's your favorite day?
Metal move day.
Was it buys and tries?
Back and thighs.
Back and thighs. For Mifflin, or inbound on Hercules Day is another option. Your heart's not getting a rest, that's for sure, when inbound is on this pick. Nearly got a kill on a Zapman. Another support wants to 1v1 a Hunter, it looks like, and Wrong You is doing plenty of damage to Stewart here.
Dude,
everything is connecting. Stewart gets stunned nearly for a 3rd time, but we'll jump on out. I hate it here. I can't. You can't watch any other side of the map because the duo lane is going crazy. But this is where we finally saw a breath of fresh air. Was action on the right a few moments ago. Inbound has left duo lane. Has eyes only for the solo lane now, as Panatom is here as well. Shinto could rotate in from the mid lane. Blue buff is up. Inbound with no excavate, not for a little bit of time, at least 3/4 of the way back. And blue buff will drop down. And SOT will go back to pick that one up. Shinto has to use the beads, dashes away, pin is there, healing out. And that keeps Shinto alive. Inbound gets feared away. It's perfect from Shinto. But it needed to be done. Not feeling great about that trade. You're just happy to be alive.
Yarkor dashes in aggressively, finds himself surrounded. He should fall here.
He goes big, descent into madness. Is there follow-up from the Leviathans? You'd love a Taiko drums there where everyone from the Scarabs is grouped up. Thunder crash out from Shinto. SOT continues to whirl forward on this King Arthur. And I think that's a worthwhile conversation that I've probably had to tried to have had like 6 times by now, but the fighting has interrupted us. But SOT on King Arthur Myth, a pivot from the normalcy that we've seen in the solo lane, but still a pick that you expect SOT to make work.
No, and he's got good fight potential,
No?
good follow-up. No, I agree. I agree. I don't know why I started off with a negatory there. Positive. 10-4, good buddy. Yes, SOT on King Arthur should look good, and it seems like the Solar Scarabs' answer to the Cthulhu out of Soul Lane is early pressure on the right-hand side. Very often we've seen Scream try and play in the 2v2 in mid or make some early rotations over to dual lane, but this game, he has really put a lot of his tension towards the Soul Lane. You can see it reflected in the towers, tier 1 and solo, about 50% for the Leviathans, repeated blue buff invades, just trying to make sure that Yarkor has a much harder time transitioning himself into the late game, and that's a great way to deal with one of the best team fight assets that the Leviathans have.
Sorry, I'm just chuckling thinking about whatever noise I made earlier. No chance. That was the noise.
You were like, it was like an It's Always Sunny, like you were a bird.
It happened again. That was on purpose, though.
Peak casting over here.
That was on purpose. Shinto, if you couldn't
hold up.
decipher what I was saying, got deleted in the mid lane. Zapman's in some trouble on left as well. Inbound.
Woo!
Not needed to make the big play. And the game 2 surge from the Solar Scarabs is right on time.
Yeah, you called it, man. Game 2 always goes the way of the Scarabs, and as of now, they're living up to that. 2,000 gold in the lead and maintaining pressure on this right-hand side. Nice rotation from the Leviathans. Might be able to catch out SOT.
Panatom misses the initial bit of damage. Scream here as well. Kill participation king, falling by the wayside a little bit in this one. 2 kills out of 5. Granted, everything has been happening on the left side of the map. It feels like now a chance for Scream to get back in the kill or assist column. Bad out of hell from Panatom will at least delay 1 for the time being. Descent into Madness from Yarkor is big. Shinto's rotated in as well. Taiko Drums could be huge. And he gets a lot of damage with it. A knockup from Baronic delays this one out, but a Thunder Crash finishes off the kill. 1 for 1 on the right. Baronic for Panatom.
Inbound still in there, though. Is able to displace Yarkor. I thought maybe for a second he had caught that dash, but a little bit too quick. Nice Riptide is going to make sure that Yarkor makes his way out of there alive. And the Solar Scarabs, they keep their pressure up on this right-hand side, and I think it's a good decision. The dual lane fights, although incredibly entertaining, were starting to go the way of the Leviathans a little bit more consistently. So, having now said, okay, let's play around SOT. Let's play around one of our leads, 1-level lead for the King Arthur, 2-level lead for Scream in the jungle. Seems like it's a tale of 2 matches here. Leviathans controlling the long, Scarabs controlling the short.
Yeah, XP per minute only going in the way of Shinto, and not by much. Everyone else for the Solar Scarabs has a lead over their counterpart on the Atlantis Leviathan. So it's those small level leads that are a little bit bigger in the jungle if you look at it. 2 levels for Scream. So when he hasn't been participating in kills, he's been farming up into the Erlong Shen after a first blood in this game. He's been able to maintain some of that pressure early. Gold Fury on the menu. Where are the Leviathans? Rongyu's going to walk on over towards the left here. SOT is going to zone Rongyu on out, and it looks like should be a free Gold Fury for the Solar Scarabs. You hope that SOT isn't able to chase down Rongyu if you're the Leviathans. So you're not losing too much here, but that's a big stun, big damage, big jump in. And a big Riptide from Rongyu will secure his escape, but when it's all said and done, Scarabs do still get that Gold Fury.
This is why I was so surprised to see the draft in Game 1 from the Scarabs. This is the portion of the game where the Scarabs are at their strongest. The early game where they can just kind of control the pace, say, we're fighting here, and we're going to drag you down into it. These mud battles in the long lane or the soul lane really are where the Scarabs hit their stride, and now, having utilized that early pressure, pick themselves up, the larger of the 2 neutral objectives on the side of the map that they were struggling a little bit more so on, so they get to fall back to the side that they've been winning pretty handily and try and get the Pyro.
Excavate takes some damage down onto the Pyromancer. It's reset and taken by the Atlantis Leviathans. There's the Taiko Drums over the wall as well. Inbound dodges out a little bit of the damage, but Hardcore chasing down one.
Whiff.
Panatom chasing down the other, and he will get locked down by Scream. But around the back, Shinto, Hardcore, they're going to rotate in. Thunder Crash locks in SOT. And now Scream, the last man running, but a beautiful River's Rebuke keeps Erlong Shen where it's at.
And now Yarkor able to make his rotation back in.
Baronic.
Baronic finally joins the fight.
Shinto's taking a lot here, but Thunder Crash back off cooldown allows the Raijin to just squeak out of the right side of this fight. So it's a 2-for-1 trade, and a big pivot myth is that steal from the Leviathans. Actually, it might be 2 for 2 if Baronic hits everything here. It didn't need to hit everything. Only needed to hit the jump in, and Baronic does hit it. So now it's a 2 for 2. but the difference maker being the Pyromancer secured. Could be a 3 for 2 across the map if Stewart hits it, and he does. Zapman, that's a long solo kill, but a solo kill nonetheless as Stewart comes up big.
That's why we call him Stuhler, man. This is one of his favorite picks back in the STC days and performing very well on it now. Zapman playing a equally aggressive pick, but maybe not one that benefits from the builds nearly as much as Inbound connects another phenomenal pull. Panatom, clipped by the wall, though, is able to at least maintain his life. And speaking of Panatom, he's been missing a few too many vampiric bats as of yet. I mean, a couple of kills get away. He doesn't get to survive nearly as many situations. This Camazotz has not only fallen behind, but isn't really finding that damage output that you'd expect from this god in the early.
Solar Scarabs, and Inbound specifically, before the set started, said when he reflects on the phase, it is a phase of missed opportunities. And you would hope that you build up a big lead like this, you're 2,500 gold in the lead, top net worth in the game are both of your carries and then your jungler by 200-300 gold or so. An opportunity that you hope doesn't go missing to really build on that and give yourself a great chance at winning game 2.
Man, Inbound wants to be a soul laner so bad. A Winged Blade, Mystical Mail, maybe. We see a Thieves, I doubt it. Could be just about anything from this point, or maybe aggression.
Blink in from Inbound. Yeah, it's always aggression when you're talking about Inbound on the Hercules, just wide on the pull back. Jump out from Zapman, Excavate. Will not connect because of the Aegis. CC immunity for Zapman, will not survive, but Scream has gone too far underneath the tower. You've spent a lot on this. If you're the Solar Scarab, Shinto, Thunder Crash forward, Tycho drums there, should he want to use them. Raiju in for the slow, Inbound taunted back into the awaiting arms of the Leviathans, and it's an overextension from the Scarabs.
The Scarabs have been playing mighty aggressive, and in doing so, leave themselves open to a counter-engage. The Leviathans are very happy to take a fight in their own Tier 2 tower 13 minutes in, just as Yarkor very happy to descend into madness and drop SOT down below half.
I don't think solo opportunity between these two here. As SOT has gotten an early sovereignty in that build myth, and maybe considering the rotations in from Panatom. You know, SOT trying to mitigate as much of that as he possibly can for the rest of his team. Panatom, Zapman, and providing a lot of physical damage.
It's a lot of damage.
Yeah, that is a lot of damage from Stewart. That's a fully stacked Transcendence of Jotuns and then 2 tiers into that next mace item. But even still, that early on in the build and you're half-healthing wrong you with a quick volley shows you why Myth, the Uller pick has been so highly prioritized.
It's just that damage output. He's not really sacrificing too much in the autos. You've still got 30% attack speed scaling just from your passive. On the 4th ability, the switch stance from Ull, as well as 30% lifesteal when in the axe stance. So once he picks up this Crusher, I think he's feeling just fine in these auto trades up against Zapman. Not that he's really in a position where he has to take auto trades. The abilities might just 100-0.
Inbound has been pretty on point with the pulls so far this game. And at least at this point, all Inbound needed was pressure to open up the purple buff invade. Big damage from Scream. Bat out of hell is out. Will the heal come in? Yes, it will. But it's not enough of a heal. Panatom gets some sustain on the end. Those vampiric bats hit. And it's a quick 1-kill swing for the Leviathans. Can you convert that in the mid lane? The other 2 members a bit low after that fight.
Oh, no.
Pull back from Inbound. Pushed back on the other side of the River's Rebuke. But the River's Rebuke is good. And the Riptide is great. Even wrong, you send Zapman back to safety beneath the Tier 2.
Here comes Yarkor, and he's got the ultimate available. If he can isolate any individual member, the damage is still there. Shinto's ready.
It's only Hardcore's ultimate that's in this fight. Thunder Crash on out. You got to get it done with the normal abilities in the kit if you're the Atlantis Leviathans. SOT's got his. And outside of that, there's no ultimate for the Solar Scarabs either, so a bit even footing as far as ultimates go, but numbers-wise, the Leviathan's a bit further out ahead. Primal Fury has sprouted forth from the earth here. Solar Scarabs considering it, and they've gone beyond.
Great pillar.
They're doing it. A good pillar from Zapman keeps SOT right where he's at, but he sends himself off to the left. Look at Hardcore running down the back line. The perfect 2 targets for this Cthulhu. Is there enough damage, though, to make Hardcore turn around? Aegis times out, but Hardcore will at least take one with him if he goes down.
Yeah, he picks up one, but Scream picks him up. Stewart in some trouble being chased out.
Bat out of hell.
Good
Aegis out from Stewart. One final swoop, and it's got it. Killing spree for Panatom, and this game has been turned around.
2-for-1 trade in favor of the Leviathans here with the Primal Fury up and ready. 5 or 4 rather members of the Leviathans on this side of the map.
We have 22 kills, 16 minutes into the game.
They're not slowing down, or maybe they are.
What,
since
one
Panatom's
kill a minute is considered like fast, right?
Very expedient.
Yeah, we're beyond that by a little bit. And it appears like we're not going to be slowing down anytime soon. I think the important trend in all of the chaos, you got to decipher it a little bit, is that the Leviathans were much further behind than they are now. Over the last couple of engagements, the number of trades have just felt better for the Leviathans. XP right back to even. Remember, that was close to 3,000 XP in the lead for the Solar Scarabs. Gold as well was over 2,000. That's now back to about 1,500. And so still in the lead as far as gold goes, but the turnaround is here from the Leviathans, and the recent trades have been going in their favor.
Yeah, it was about a 2-level lead for Scream in the jungle. There was about 2 levels for Stuart as well, and now that's been turned on his head. Panatom 1 level up, and Zapman's completely closed up the gap against his opponent here. And Zapman passive, fully on display. 1, 4, and 2, the exact same level, or about half a level down on Stuart, and still making the rotation, still getting involved in these team fights. He's not taking the 1v1, which is uncharacteristic for the Z-Man, but he's got his eyes on the goal.
Are you surprised, though? I mean,
no.
Yeah, maybe not. I don't know if I'm wanting to fight Stuart at this point in the game. That's a great Rivers Rebuke from Rongyu, and there's just way too much for Scream to get out of this one. So the 12th kill of the game for the Leviathans could be the 13th. And this is kind of how these fights have started. One person gets picked off, and then there's a rotation in from both teams after the fact to try to remedy what had just happened. Now it's the Solar Scarabs fighting at a disadvantage, number disadvantage. Shinto, big stun, big damage from Stuart, but Aegis avoids a whole lot of it by Shinto, and there's no Taiko drums. Those used just a moment ago. And the Solar Scarabs, mightily ahead in the ultimate department, come up empty-handed on the right.
And Zapman spends that entire time farming yet again, where Stuart does make the rotation, at least forces out both defensive relics from Shinto in the jungle. Does not hit pay dirt, and what's Zapman gonna do? He pushes out the duo lane, he pushes out mid, he invaded your red buff, and he says, look man, maybe I set up an ambush in the jungle.
And he will get the stun, beads immediately from Stuart.
No
Desert
shot!
Fury, nearly. That would have been big for Zapman to return the favor. Stuart ran down Zap earlier on in this game, but Zapman comes up a bit short there. Aegis was 15 seconds away, would have been unfortunate timing to say the least by Stuart. Inbound. Make no mistake,
Great
he's
impale.
got Blink, he's using it. Impale out. As Zapman and Panatom and Inbound all kind of swap sides with one another. That's a Thunder Crash out from Shinto. Taiko drums, fearing onto a couple, but SOT is rotated even further behind the Raijin. And the fighting goes on here in the mid lane. Panatom swoops on away. A Riptide will send SOT in the same direction. The front line healthy enough for the Leviathans. Nothing more to be had. And the Primal Fury in the meantime worked on by the Scarabs.
Worked on very quickly as well. That is burning very fast, and the only one in range to put up any sort of defense is Zapman, and with no ultimate available, will not be stepping up to the neutral objective. So the Solar Scarabs are able to nurse their lead back up to 2,000 gold, but behind in experience. Not often you get to see that divide in a game of Smite with 24 kills in 19 minutes.
Yeah, it's really Panatom, right? I mean, it's 2 levels and everyone else is even.
Just about. I'd say so. Maybe about a half level for Yarkor, about a half level for Rongyu as well, but you're right to say it is mainly the jungler finding the majority of that XP lead. And take a peek at Scream's build, going a little bit different here. Wind Demon earlier on. That's going to help out with your chase. It's going to help out with your penetration. You're going to find some pretty cheeky crits as well. But just about no defense. Finally starting to look towards some utility with the Ancient Blade pickup. But he's very squishy in these fights. And with the composition that the Leviathans have, it's pretty easily to isolate individual members. We've seen Rongyu's ultimate really put the kibosh to a lot of Scream's aggression.
Not a massive steal, but a steal nonetheless as Inbound walks forward and takes away the Greater Scorpion. So enhanced buffs for the Solar Scarabs on this side of the map. Primal Pyromancer. This is what the Solar Scarabs take down. That's a big Pyromancer. It's the Primal one. Rongyu walking on away as SOT walking on in. Veronica lets some damage fly, not much of it connecting onto the Leviathans. Rivers Rebuke separates 3 from 2 by the Solar Scarabs. Big impale onto SOT. Inbound has been left alone, but not taken down just yet. Panatom rampaging now. Double taunts in from Scream, who immediately turns around and leaves this fight. When Zapman's jumping in aggressively, you're not thrilled with the way that the fight is going. And look at the zone out from Hardcore. It's left SOT all on an island, all on its own, and all 5 members of the Leviathans pile on.
It's such a different look at Cthulhu. In the last game, it was very often the Leviathans would gun it down at SOT and say, I'm going to drop as much damage into you as I can before you're able to descend into madness. Yarkor isn't doing it quickly, and Panatom removed from the map. I'm not even allowed to analyze.
No, you're not. Scream is going to make you pay for taking a moment away from the fighting. Baronic might make us do so as well. Fire Giant's been dropped here. Baronic slowly
He's done.
gets taken down. Took a minute. but Hardcore is able to get that kill nonetheless. In the meantime, Stuart and Scream send their attention towards the tier 2 tower in mid. All things considered, Miff, the Solar Scarabs delay out the Fire Giant. Nice push-pull onto Hardcore, but that is a tanky Cthulhu. The bad news is there are reinforcements coming from the mid lane, and so can you delay Hardcore enough to maybe get another kill here?
Well, that's one way to do
hit
it.
Another pull. He's going to hit another push. Hardcore's got to head back the other way, and the chase continues. Somebody play Yakety Sax as the pin will connect. Scream gets the kill, and another one on board.
What's a yakety sax?
Is
Is that not Benny Hill?
Yeah, but the song is called Yakety Sack or Yakety Sax.
Then what is Benny? Is that the guy?
That is the
He's
show.
the artist? There's a
I think. No, maybe it's the artist.
Dude, I'm lost. Anyway, Inbound trying to create some more space here as he tries to isolate Panatom in the jungle. This is a 5v4 opportunity for the Solar Scarabs. 3,000 or 4,000 gold in the lead to start to take
Hindu
their
is going to
eyes
be mad at you. It's a
towards the
British
Fire Giant.
TV show.
Well, how am I supposed to know that? British people are already fictional, and I got to talk about their fiction?
My God. You're lucky there's a Fire Giant up here, Miff, and we can immediately pull away from that. And it's the Solar Scarabs. Look, this actually is pretty
huge.
intense and pretty important. Fire Giant locked in by the Solar Scarabs. Wrong you. No Omi. Panatom trying to pull at least a kill back. Get this FG buff off one of the Solar Scarabs. Unable to do so. Rivers Rebuke out from Wrong you. Panatom jumps away. Big damage from Zapman, who's already let his ultimate fly, so there's no execute damage on the other end. Scream continues his warpath, and it's Shinto on the other end.
Split engagement there for the Leviathans, and now Wrong You left completely alone. Stewart credit for this one, and Yarkor dashes in.
What a big turnaround from the Solar Scarabs. The Leviathans have been coming up big, but it's anything but here. Zapman might have his say here in this fight, but there's a lot still to be said by the Solar Scarabs. FG on 4 are dead. Leviathans running to the hills.
The Solar Scarabs do not lose game 2's Panatom, the only one still alive, and 20 seconds left on any reinforcements.
Do you think they can end here?
That's like I panic end here every day of the week. Every day of the week.
Solar Scarabs, they want to push us to 3 games. Yet again, Mifflin is standing up for context, and he should sit right back down because the Solar Scarabs take the mid lane Phoenix, and they will head on out with their bounty in tow. They got Fire Giant, Miff, and admittedly it surprised me. We're talking about Benny Hill, but in the meantime, the Scarabs stabilize. They pull up a big Fire Giant. They're able to grab it. They are awaiting a Gold Fury spawning here, but the Leviathans, I don't think, put up much of a fight, not with who they've got currently on the map. That the Solar Scarabs go ahead in this game.
8,000 gold between the Solar Scarabs in the lead, and Fire Giant on 4 members. Only 2 tier 2 towers still standing for the Leviathans, and take a peek at the relics on the left-hand side. Just about everything down for the Order team. So if the Scarabs are able to force a fight, as they have been doing continuously for the last 25 minutes, they're going to find themselves in a very nice advantage state. I think, if anything, the Solar Scarabs maybe forego the Gold Fury. That should be a fallback reward. Instead, try and make use of this time and start pushing down these tier 2s. But this is a meandering push from the Solar Scarabs. Very slow on the group up. Inbound, acting as a solo agent in mid, trying to push forward the Fire Minion waves. And, well, the Scarabs, they've got time to play with the Fire Giant, but they don't have so much time before these relics come back up for the Leviathans.
That's right. The Leviathans are just going to do their best, Miff, to push out these waves. You get the one and right pushed out. Fire Minion wave in mid, though, is going to reach the base of the Atlantis Leviathans. They're going to have to head on back because Inbound happy to push this in. Tier 2 tower on left will go down, and that's where the rest of the Solar Scarabs are. Still a minute and a half left, as you mentioned, on that Fire Giant buff. Big defensive fight here from the Leviathans. You can either send this game right back to even, or the Solar Scarabs are pushing us onto a game 3, as we have seen them do plenty of times this year. Inbound looking for the big play. Comes up just a bit short.
He did, but Yarkor takes a good deal of damage earlier on, about 20% of his HP removed, so that means Ascent into Madness going to be a little bit less impactful. Every bit of poke you can put into this Cthulhu is huge.
Wrong you. Chip to half. Luckily has some sustain, so we'll be able to stick around here in this fight. Big pull from Inbound, but no follow-up on the other end. Panatom has been locked into the ultimate by SOT. Now the Kamazots will have to leap away. All this time, the damage has been connecting onto the left. Phoenix, Riptide out from Wrong You. Thunder Crash away. Everyone from the Leviathans using everything to leave this fight. The Solar Scarabs smell blood, but it'll have to wait. The Leviathans make it back to Fountain.
Yarkor finally descends into madness, and he's got 4 surrounded. SOT acting alone.
Oh, it's big from SOT. Look, Shinto, Zapman, all eyes are on the back line. And the Solar Scarabs, in the meantime, have been able to pour everything in to Hardcore, who's on the front, but the Leviathans have stayed alive. They found 2 kills. The Solar Scarabs push into the left side of the map, and they'll come up empty-handed. Massive jump in. 3 men locked into place. Double kill for Zapman. Inbound gets his heal, and the Leviathans lose their Phoenix, but they stay alive in their base. 3-piece for Zapman.
The Titan at least drops down to half HP throughout all of that. The Solar Scarabs minion waves through mid have pushed in here, but they're dead for a very long time, and I called for it earlier. Maybe we get another opportunity to try and check for a panic end. With all these towers still standing, though, the Leviathans are not afforded the exact same opportunity. Best case scenario, I think they can pick up maybe 1 tier 2 tower, reposition themselves to get ready for this Fire Giant. The Titan does reset itself, heals up just a little bit, back up to about 80% HP, but mid Phoenix down, left Phoenix dropped right, or just about right, as the Fire Giant is respawning. The Solar Scarabs have done a great job establishing a winning map state.
And Miff, I think something you say there is very important, and it's that even in a moment like this where the Leviathans have the numbers advantage, they win a big fight, there's still so much left on the map. 1 less tier 1 tower now, but still all 3 tier 2 towers are there. Of course, you have the Phoenixes to worry about. So the Solar Scarabs have a little bit of cushion to play with here. Granted, those objectives will die quickly as long as Zapman is there, Panatom is there. But a little bit of extra padding for the Solar Scarabs if a fight doesn't necessarily go their way, as the one just now happened in the Leviathan's base. That said, Scarabs probably think it feels all right. You got T-Map minions and Fire minions pushing down the left side. Phoenix in the mid lane has respawned, but still very low. And 28 minutes in, we will not be enhanced yet, but the Fire Giant by the Solar Scarabs is melting quick.
50% on, and it's just Rongu in a position to put up the defense, but just by rearing his head is able to scare the Solar Scarabs off the largest neutral objective on the map, picking up the Pyromancer just as quick, and now yet again pulling the Fire Giant. Leviathans just biding their time.
Active situation not fantastic outside of the blinks for the Solar Scarabs. Rongu, I mean, that is a lot of CC onto the Emoja. Panatom spotted out on left. He'll be able to sustain himself right back up. Hardcore dashes into the back, uses the Thorns, uses the Descent into Madness, and SOT in the River's Rebuke will die as a lone wolf. And now the Leviathans, they've gotten a kill, but their Titans being worked on by the Fire minions and the Tiamat minions.
Yeah, Tiamat minions also threatening that mid Phoenix as well. The Leviathans don't have a whole lot of time to work with. Somebody has to back, and it's Panatom already in the base, so 4v4 around the Fire.
Watch out, around the backside is Scream. He's all alone. He's knocked up everyone, but there's no one from the Solar Scarabs to follow up with the damage. Inbound's got a big pull, big push. It's on to Zapman, who immediately uses both actives. But the Honor lives on, and Excavate dropped on his dome, and the Solar Scarabs are able to pull back a kill.
Panatom still playing up cleanup duty on his own Titan, isn't able to rotate into the fight, so the Solar Scarabs effectively extend this game yet again by desyncing the deaths. SOT going to be back in 15 seconds. Zapman's got 40 to think about his transgressions. Nobody credit for the Fire Giant, but now we're approaching that 30-minute mark. It's going to enhance itself very shortly. Leviathans, though, having, again, slowed down this game themselves, are going to get that left Phoenix back and available to them. So the map state resets. It's going to be a dead even fight around the Fire Giant. The only thing separating these two squads 30 minutes in is just about 7,000 gold.
You know, it's wild, yeah, and even the damage is so close. Look, both solo laners neck and neck in damage. Mid laners, hunters, junglers, they're all right near one another as far as damage goes.
Enhanced.
A lot of it's on the enhanced Fire Giant now, though, for the Solar Scarabs. Hardcore, can you make a big play? Not when inbound's there. That is a quick enhanced Fire Giant by the Solar Scarabs in Game 3, smelling more likely after a big play by the Scarabs.
So now they don't have to worry about the Solar Scarabs, that is backdoor protections. We already saw that they were very clinical on these invades, or not invades, sieges rather. It was very slow play, just looking for the objective itself, not overcommitting to the fight. Going to be much easier to perform on now. I think the Solar Scarabs make the right decision. Don't need to rush towards the weakened Phoenixes now. Instead, utilize this time to try and take out the strongest one.
And so we will take one more deep breath before what could very well be the last fight of the game starts off. You have to look at the actives. Where are we standing? Beads down for both Shinto and Zapman. Aegis down there as well. That's important, whereas both carries from the Solar Scarabs have both of their actives. Now that's about a minute of advantage.
Split all of them?
That the Solar Scarabs have now. And so if you're able to push that advantage quickly, you're better off for it. But it's going to take a little bit. Exchange blinks by the jungler, and Panatom loses this fight, but bat out of hell. That's the ace up the sleeve of the Kamazots, and Panatom will swoop away. Ultimates used by both junglers. And a big moment there, but Panatom did have to use the beads, whereas in 25 seconds, Scream will have his. Thunder Crash forward by Shito, stun in from SOT. River's Rebuke out from Wrong Use. A 3 versus 2 on left. Scream left alone, not enough damage to kill off the Raijin in the mid lane. Hardcore has gone big. Mid lane Phoenix falls as well as the left side. SOT left alone, and it looks like the Leviathans, it'll be the same trade. You lose your Phoenixes, but you win the fight.
All 3 Phoenixes this time, though. That is long shot odds for a comeback. The Leviathans in a good position to continue chasing this fight, but Waves already in your Minotaur, or Titan rather, it's not 2012, are going to put some threat on the map here. I don't think the Leviathans are in a position really where they can push their numbers advantage. It was a good year. No, it wasn't.
That was a, what, junior in high school? I don't know. That was an alright year, I guess.
You're old, bro.
Thanks, Myth. Leviathans, they are able to group up as 5 here, so Enhanced Fire Giant still around Baronic, Inbound, and Stewart's Waste. And 25 seconds on SOT, 15 on Scream. So maybe a soft push here. You're going to have to send Hardcore back, so it really is a 4 versus 3 that you're looking at. And it's just up to this Cthulhu to keep some of those waves at bay. You're going to push out at mid as far as you possibly can. And it looks like that's all the Leviathans have in mind. And really unfortunate. I mean, this Fire Giant has a 1.5 minutes left, Myth, but these Phoenixes not particularly close to respawning. I don't know, 3 or 4 minutes on all 3 of them. It's going to be a long road back into this game for the Leviathans.
Throughout all the years of competitive Smite play, you can count the number of comebacks with all 3 Phoenixes down on one hand. There have not been many. I can think of maybe 2 or 3 off the top of my head. So the Leviathans in a position where they are forced to make history if they want to win this game. And already the Solar Scarabs have done a great job of keeping these waves pushed up.
Fire minions.
Intelligent play. No, they let it in here so they can clear it out, reset the Titan, and heal it up a little bit more.
Oh, there you go, Myth.
Okay, well, maybe somebody's got to help, though. Rongu can't do it on his own. Somebody's going to help.
I'm just letting you analyze this because that's and again, that's why I keep you around, Myth. The small nuances of the game just never escape you, it feels like. So a small play for the Leviathans. They will reset the Titan. Solar Scarabs still have 3 members of that Enhanced Fire Giant. Everyone in the game outside of Panatom have their actives ready to go. At least in the next 10 seconds or so. We might not get there. River's Rebuke out. You have to fight outside of your base. And that's what the Leviathans are doing. Scream left alone, and Scream will die alone. Hardcore still surging forward.
And now the Leviathans are in a tough position. The right side is going to have some minion waves pushing in.
SOT
going to borrow it.
Wait, SOT and Inbound, they're going together into the base of the Atlantis Leviathans as the backs will get channeled. And the backs will come through. SOT and Inbound will not make their way into the base. But Wrong You hasn't been able to go back just yet. Fire minion waves are going to get cleared, but are you going to lose your support in the meantime? It's going to be a long chase out as Wrong You gets all the CC piled onto him. This is important. Look, if Wrong You goes down, you're pretty delayed on these respawns, a minute or so, but it looks like the escape is in, and Wrong You will not have to watch Grayscale.
Zapman pulled in, forced to use the beads here defensively, and that is a huge tool lost. The Fire Giant just has to go the way of the Scarabs, man. There's no way the Leviathans can step up. Titan below half, all 3 Phoenixes down, but the Leviathans have done a good job yet again of extending this game. If they could just send somebody up to slow down the Scarabs, these Phoenixes are going to respawn pretty close to each other. So maybe if the Leviathans can extend this one 20, 30 more seconds, they could try and put up a defense on this Fire Giant, but it still is long shot odds.
I mean, that felt like the only place the Leviathans could take a fight, right? I mean, if it's anywhere in your base, on your Titan, you're just going to lose the game.
Yes, sir.
And so the Leviathans take the fight where they had to. And remember a few minutes ago, I was discussing how long it was going to take for those Phoenixes to respawn. Well, we have reached respawn point. Right side is up, left side will be after that, mid lane shortly after, all within a few seconds of one another. Fire Giant is up here as well. And if you pointed it out, the delay is actually okay here. The waves pushed out far enough where none of those Phoenixes are immediately under threat. And so the Leviathans have the opportunity to contest this Enhanced Fire Giant if they want to, but it's going down, it's going quickly. Leviathans!
What?
Oh my, they come up big.
Scream!
And they steal it away. Scream, the first to go down. The rest of the Solar Scarabs scattering in the backline. Hardcore is huge. The Cthulhu running down the backline of the Scarabs as Zapman has cleaned up the other frontliner. And the Leviathans steal it away. They might have stolen the game, and they will take this set.
In ages of past, the narrative
Alas.
around the Leviathans is that you cannot beat them in the late game. They are too dominant. They work too well as a team. And now 2 members of the Scarabs, the only thing standing between the Order team and another dub.
Well, at this point, Panatom is just delaying the back, but he'll give Inbound the easy road back in. Absurd, Mifflin. Hopefully, it was no less than 5 3 Phoenix turnarounds that we've got, because another one has happened here, and it's the Leviathans who keep all Phoenixes alive. They keep the game alive. They'll kill Stewart where he stands. And a 3 Phoenix turnaround goes the way of the Leviathans. They'll take the set 2-0.
Just the way they wrote it up, right? They wanted to keep everyone
Yeah,
on
of
the
course.
edge of their seats to round out the phase, and what a way to close this one out. That is the second 2-0 that has been handed to the Solar Scarabs, I believe. It was the only Warriors and now the Leviathans
That was
as
very
well.
close. That was like a close 2-0.
Yeah, I mean, the Scarabs' second game passive almost kicks in this time, but the Leviathans steadfast in the defense.
Zapman passive though. You
Oh,
pointed
yeah.
it out,
Oh,
right? You said he was like
can't
1
stop
and,
him.
he was like 1 and 4 in this game, and then the rest of the game looks a little bit better for Zapman on the on-her. You don't see it often. 3 Phoenixes down, Leviathans stay alive. They steal away the enhanced fire giant.
Gross.
Nuts turnaround by the Leviathans. And this is an early game where we're screaming every 6 seconds because
Well, you were.
yeah, I was making weird noises. Who knows? We've come a long way since the early game. The Leviathans, big turnaround here in game 2. They'll take the set. We'll take a break. When we come back, the desk will take us home.
What was that? He's making a montage. Oh my gosh, that man with a great ricochet bounces off the wall, off the tower, and right into a waiting and patient Imolito. You couldn't have planned it better.
Hey there, Smite fans, Aggro here. Look, every single year, the SPL just keeps getting better. Season 7 was incredible, and in Season 8, I'm sure our players are going to take their game to the next level. But in order to do that, they're going to need the best gear they can get their hands on. And that's why I'm so excited to announce the title sponsor for Season 8 of the SPL is Alienware. Yeah, that Alienware. Our players are getting the best of the best in computer gaming. These Alienware Aurora Ryzen Edition PC setups are insane. Not only will these be the PCs that the players will compete on once we are in studio, but Alienware is also providing one for each player at their home setup to make sure their practice is as good as possible. Now let's get down to brass tacks. The specs on these Alienware Aurora Ryzen Edition desktops are amazing. An AMD Ryzen 9 16-core processor.
That's a lot of cores.
That's plenty of processing power.
Plenty of cores.
If you want to stream, this is the way to go.
I know a lot about my cores, so. I mean, Pilates, right?
64 gigabytes of DDR4 RAM.
What? Is that true?
That is true.
I mean, this thing has 64 gigs of DDR4 RAM.
Which you can do literally anything with.
Literally anything.
I've never had more than 16 gigs.
That's quadruple the amount I have at home.
And one of the hottest commodities in the PC world, an NVIDIA GeForce 3090 graphics card.
Insane how much better this is than what I have.
The best graphics you really need, Ultra, of course.
Content's gonna look good.
And what's the point of all the power if you can't see it? Players will also be using the Alienware 25-inch 240 Hz monitors.
Man, when I load into scrims with this bad boy, I'm gonna feed so hard. And it's gonna be in perfect picture quality.
We are so excited to be partnering with Alienware for Season 8 of the SMITE Pro League. And the best part is, this VIP treatment, it's not just for the pros. You too can get the best possible SMITE experience. Just go to smitegame.com/Alienware and use code SMITEAW to get special discounts on some of Alienware's best products. Thanks again to Alienware. Make sure you're following them on Twitter and Instagram. That's at Alienware on both platforms. And you can join their community at alienwarearena.com. I know Mike didn't say the thing. Mike, can you say the thing for him?
You're telling me an alien wore this?
Hello and welcome back to the SMITE Pro League. The Leviathans with a big win here today over the Solar Scarabs, and we got to give a shout out to our title sponsor for Season 8 of the SPL, Alienware, of course. You can go over to smitegame.com/Alienware and use code SMITEAW to get all the insight on the newest gear and tech available to not just us here in the studio, but to our pro players and to you at home. So you can pick up one of those desktops, one of those monitors, anything that you want from those Alienware products. Make sure to go check them out on their website at alienwarearena.com and follow them on their social media at Alienware on both Twitter and Instagram. Thank you so much, Alienware, for being the title sponsor here of Season 8 of the SMITE Pro League. Make sure one more time to go out to smitegame.com/Alienware to check all that out. Leviathans with their big win today over the Solar Scarabs. I mean, they secure themselves first seed, but it definitely was a bit of a struggle to get it there in game number 2. We get a nice little rare occurrence of the triple Phoenix down, come back to win.
Do not see it very often. Only a handful of times in SMITE competitive history, but it's just too easy for the Leviathans, man. I mean, this team, they just make so many smart plays back to back to back. I mean, that fight outside of their Phoenix line, right around 34 minutes, I think it was, to pick Scream and stall out the siege, and then again catching the Scarabs off guard every single time. This front line eventually just was starting to work. Rongyu and Yarkor really able to toe that line. I mean, look at this clip. Zatman and Shinto get to come into this fight late and play cleanup crew, where Yarkor and Rongyu are in red health bars because they were in the front line doing that damage and absorbing those cooldowns to allow their back line to come in and make the big plays later on. This Leviathans team, they just do it front to back so well. The front line doing great work. Zap and Shinto obviously making big plays, and then this huge play from Zapman to really put the Leviathans back in the driver's seat, sealing away that EFG was massive.
I mean, if you want an estimation on just how tight that window was, it popped up at the end. I had to double check. Is 141 damage from a single spear of Desert's Fury that stole that enhanced fire giant away. That is a very narrow window, but Zapman was able to do it here with his team. Finishes off 7-6 after being on a 1-4 start. The Zapman passive kicks in, proves to be just a little bit more powerful than the Solar Scarabs Game 2 passive. Then we get the Leviathans a big win here. That's not to short anything here from Panatom, 11-3 on the Kamazots, and player damage widely across the board. Hardcore with 40. Oh my! I didn't even realize he had that much player. It's 48,500 out of this Cthulhu Soul. I mean, we were seeing it even before the double potential Cthulhu composition has been coming out. I mean, Final K brought it out a while back. He did like 34,000 damage, only got, what, 1 kill, 1 death, and like 4 assists, but damage is the name of the game on this god.
A lot of the time, and in mitigated 73k at the same time.
Yeah, that's
So,
gross.
Lots of great frontline work from Yarkor, as per usual, out of the Star Solo laner for the Leviathans. How about Panatom as well? Kind of started off a little rusty in that game, I felt like. Was a little bit off the mark in some of those skill shots, but really was able to dial it in and find a home. And I think that's part of the maturation process of a player and of a team, that you don't have to start off super well. It's more about how you finish, and Panatom was able to finish really nicely.
Well, not just that, the Leviathans able to come out with a nice win here today. Let's go ahead and kick it over to our post-game interview with Zapman. Dolson standing by with them.
That's right. Zapman joins me after, I don't know, Zep, it's a chaotic game 2 to say the absolute least. Game 1 felt pretty cut and dry for you guys. Walk me through the early game of game 2. As long ago as that was, felt like between Hercules, Uller, Yamoja, you on the On-Her, I mean, there was just non-stop fighting going on over there in that duo lane. That catch you by surprise a little bit, or you see those two on the other side, you figure that's what's going to happen?
Yeah, we kind of figured, they picked Herc and Erlang. They would fight often, but what caught us by surprise is just how often they did it. They were just like running east to west and just, ganking everybody and fighting all the time. And, yeah, they took us by surprise there.
Now that, some people might say, activated the Zapman passive. As the game goes on, your 3 Phoenixes down, a few deaths in the back pocket. You had him right where you want him in that moment?
Yeah, I mean, 3 Phoenixes down is my comfort zone,
Right.
So it was, a hard-fought battle. The Scarabs played great, and to be honest, that was a really good game to have, coming from behind 3 Phoenixes down.
Absolutely.
It's good for, like, come World's time and all that.
What a way to end the phase. And really quickly, you join, like, mid-phase 2 to this team. This is your first kind of complete round robin with the Leviathan squad here in phase 3. When you look back at phase 3 as we stand here, what comes to mind with this team?
I'm just proud. I'm just proud of our team. I think we finished like 3rd or 4th in the second phase when I joined in the middle, and just to have a full phase and just accomplish what we did and build up the synergy, especially me and Ronnie. I think we improved a lot in the lane. I'm just proud of the guys, and just always looking forward.
Whole lot of winning ahead, I'm sure, for this Leviathans team. First seed at the end of phase 3. Congrats to Zapman, not only on that, but the win here against the Solar Scarabs. I'll let you go back and celebrate with the boys, and we'll go back to the desk to end the day.
Yeah, thank you so much. I think proud is probably the best way that he can put that. I mean, these guys have been looking phenomenal all phase. Now they finish the first half of this phase, the round robin stages as first seed, which means they do have that first pick potential going towards the group stages, which is going to be coming up here just shortly after. We will have the draft phase, but let's take a look at the schedule and see what went down in our final week of this portion of the regular season for the SPL. Camelot Kings and the Bolts got 2-0 victories yesterday, and then today the Jade Dragons and the Atlantis Leviathans both got 2-0s in their matchup. So quick-ish weekend. Some of these games a little bit longer, especially that last little one that we saw. But now for the meat and potatoes of it, we get to see where everything ends up in the standings. Leviathans, they come out on top, first seed, a 6-1 finish after only having their one little loss there right near the tail end of the season. So a big one for them moving towards the draft stage.
An impressive phase for the Leviathans, no doubt about it. I mean, this is a team that now gets to control their own destiny in every way. They get to have that first pick to send someone into the Bolts group. And like I was saying on the waiting room this week, I think that this group stage is very different from the last, because in the last group stage, that was before the Tartarus Titans had hit their stride. It felt like there was a clear top 4. And in that scenario, having 2 really good teams in each group and 2 dark horses made it for pretty even groups. Now I think the group the Leviathans are in should be significantly easier than whatever the Bolts have to deal with.
Yeah, it's that weird power dynamic you were talking about back in that waiting room where, 2 and 2 is one thing, but now you have 2 and 3, or maybe even potentially 3 and 3 if the Scarabs, who have been kind of bringing a lot of these top teams to game 3s, maybe haven't closed out those games, but have been keeping them close. Even the Oni Warriors putting a couple of big strides there in the earlier stages of the phase, and that's going to make for an interesting draft phase, which is going to be coming up immediately after this. We will go to a little break after we're all done here, and then the group stage we're going to come out through. We'll have the 2 of the players from both of the teams out here to kind of draft those up and see where everybody really falls into place.
Yeah, it should be really interesting because, it's a matter of what teams do you feel like you don't have great matchups against. The Bolts, they get to send 1 team over, and the Leviathans, you expect them to send 2 of the top 5 over, knowing that, they and the Bolts are the other top 2 teams. So excited to see what the Leviathans feel like is their worst matchup, because that should be the team they send over.
Well, Wait no longer, or at least wait just a little bit longer. We're going to take it to a break, and when we come back, the SPL draft phase for the group stages will be coming up right after.